Okay, everybody, welcome to the Layman's Lab. We have got a very special guest today. He is the owner of the only MetroFlex in Florida and the gym that we call home, Matt Fuse, who also, you've come from Texas, right?
Kind of all over the place. So originally from Iowa.
Okay.
But then,
Iowa. Wow.
Yeah, Iowa.
The cornfields.
Well, the only real claim to fame we have is Ashlyn Kutcher. So, but he's sacred up there.
Wow.
And then basically, I went to school, undergrad in Florida.
Yeah.
And then moved to Texas for grad school.
Okay.
And then lived there, worked there for a while, and then I just had this. If you have ever been to Dallas, it has the worst weather. Mm-hmm. So I said, screw this. I'm done with this. I want to go back to Florida.
So as someone from South Africa, I've heard Dallas is very close to South Africa's kind of weather. You just take that?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. So tell us why the weather's so bad in Dallas. Like, I want to know personally.
So when everybody thinks, and I thought this originally with Dallas, that it was going to be, it's like Florida. It's just hotter. It's warm throughout the whole
dry,
year.
right?
Yeah, warm and dry.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It is the worst because North Dallas. There's a big difference between North Dallas and then your South Dallas.
Yeah.
Or sorry, South Texas, North Texas, South Texas. Dallas has the winters are cold.
Yeah.
Just like Iowa.
Yeah.
You get snow too.
You get snow. I never thought that. Never had, and yeah, I didn't do my homework.
Okay.
Yeah, there's snow. So, but the thing is when they get snow, it's maybe, put it this way, it might happen 3 to 5 times a winter.
Okay.
No big deal, right? That's not bad.
That's too bad.
No, the problem is when it snows, though, the whole city shuts down.
Because they don't
They don't
They're
have
not
the
prepared.
equipment.
They have no snow plows. They got nothing.
Yeah.
So when you're working there, you have to go to everybody else for the most part. When it snows there, they stay home. It's an off day.
Okay.
They have fun with it. Even more, anybody that works, unless you work from home. But even those people find a way to not have to work on those days. But when you did what I did as a cop, oh no.
Yeah.
You're going to go in.
You're going, and then
God.
you have to go in, and you have to make sure. I mean,
That sucks.
you can't. There's no snow plows, nothing. I mean, the roads you can't. It's terrible. You can't even see them.
And if you go down to the south of Texas, because I stayed in Houston for a little bit in 2007, it's very similar to Florida, except for the winters. The winters are way colder there. They're way colder there. So, okay, so what did you study? So you did your undergrad in Florida. Where in Florida were you?
So I was at Florida Gulf Coast.
Okay,
And this is back when it was. I mean, it's growing now. It's big now, but I mean, I feel like every college for the most part, it's not become like a money machine. But this is back when it was roughly 6,000 students, something like that.
Okay.
So it was up and coming, but it was chill. It was nice. I mean, the dorms that I had were literally right on the water. They had this huge lake, and it had its own personal beach. I mean, it was awesome.
Nice.
I mean, you literally wake up in the morning, you see palm trees, sand, beach, and just big water right there.
Nice.
Right
Why'd you go there?
For one, and this is the thing with Iowa, and I'm never going to knock Iowa because it's always home, and you have the greatest people there.
They make the food, so let's not say anything bad about Iowa.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you watch what you say.
It's true.
But time in Iowa, and this is kind of the best way to describe Iowa, is time slows down.
Yeah.
So anytime I've ever gone back there, especially coming from big cities, I go back there and it's like a day just seems longer.
Yeah.
Because it's just quiet.
No,
you're not in a hurry. Nobody's in a hurry there. The roads.
Yeah.
That's a good way to explain it. I remember it like that too.
Time slows down, and another thing too, with people being born and raised in Iowa, which I wasn't. I was originally born in Germany.
Okay.
So my dad was in the Air Force, and so we moved around a lot, but that was overseas. So I've been to Spain. I mean, you name it. I've been there in Europe.
Yeah.
But I don't remember any of it because I was...
You were a little kid, right?
Yeah, I was a kid. I was like, I think when we left Germany, I was like 3 years old.
Okay.
So I barely remember anything of it. But the main reason I left Iowa was because, most people born and raised in Iowa, they stay in Iowa.
Yeah.
I know a guy that has never been outside the state his entire life.
Wow.
And he's 34 years old.
Yeah.
He's never left the state.
That's crazy.
I met a few people like that when I set up in Canada. Like, I mean, people never left the town. or the county. They stuck that. I have everything I need. They're kind of stuck it, which for me is weird. Like, I mean, I've stayed in 4 countries in my life, and we've been all over the place. For me, it's crazy how you can't explore. So I get 100%. You stay in a place, great. I need to expand.
Yeah.
So you come down to Florida. What then leads you back to Dallas or back to Texas?
So when I came down to Florida, it was, I was here for, I know most people do 4 years for undergrad. I did 5 because I just tried to prolong my stay.
Yeah.
Because, I loved it. I didn't want to get out into the real world. And I thought too, well, I like this. I like being in school and college. It's fun. It's the best part of your life. Mm-hmm. Well, I need to extend it. So what do I need to do? I need to go to grad school. All right. I'm going to go to grad school. Well, I've heard great things about Texas. I lived there when I was little.
Yeah.
This is right when we came back from Germany, so I still don't remember much of any of it, but I just know, hey, you know what? What's the next adventure frontier? All right, let's go.
Let's go Texas.
Texas is bigger and better in Texas. So I went to Texas State University there. They had a good criminal justice program, and it was, it was to help with my future career, but at the same time, for the most part, it was a placeholder of, okay, I can extend, being a college student for the next, technically you're supposed to do, grad school is like 2 years or less.
Yeah.
I made sure to do 3.
Nice.
I did 3 for 3 years with that. I prolonged it, but it was it was fun. San Marcos it's a college town. Florida Gulf Coast, I said, like, it's 6,000 students, but Texas State, it's a big school. You got like 30,000.
Wow.
So the whole town is all college, and it's got, the bars, and it's got everything, but everything revolves around the school, which is nice.
So what did you major in?
Criminal justice there too.
Okay, so criminal justice is your line in. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. So you line yourself into Texas, and you go into criminal justice, and then you obviously you become a cop.
Yes. So originally the goal was either be a cop or go federal. Okay. When I was there at Texas State, I got I submitted before I left a position at the U.S. Marshal Service.
Okay.
And so this is when I'm doing schooling. They're saying, hey, well, all of a sudden I moved to Texas, and it takes like anything federal background checks. I mean, it took them like almost a year. All of a sudden one day I get a call and say, hey, this is blah, 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 with the federal U.S. Marshals. We got a spot for you. You'll be the first intern from Florida Gulf Coast, even though I'm not there anymore. They said to do the internship if you want to take it. So I said, sure. So I then moved back for a year to go do the internship with the U.S. Marshals. And then at the time, I was in District 18 under Deputy Director Paul Smith, and he, the whole point of doing the internship for the most part was you do the internship, then obviously you get accepted in the U.S. Marshals. That's kind of how it works. Okay. So I was like, well, it looks like I'm not going to be finishing grad school. And the deputy director's like, at the beginning of the internship was like, hey, we're going to get you in. Everything's going to be, you're going to be good. It's going to be smooth sailing from here on out. You've been doing well here, so it's just going to transition into it. It's going to be real easy. Then he notified me, this is kind of towards the end of the internship. And he said, did you hear about the news with Obama? I said, I did. I said, I already kind of see where this is going. Ooh. This is when he had people coming back from Iraq. So he put a mandate out for federal employment to only hire veterans. Yeah. Which I understood. Like, I get it. If that's, obviously they take priority. Made perfect sense to me. But at the same time, sucks for me because
you put all that effort in.
Yeah.
What year was this?
Effort in.
What year was that?
This was like 2011, 2012. Okay. Somewhere around there. So then he's like, sorry. He's like, I talked to everybody. We can't forward you in. We were already preparing your papers, months ago to submit it. Once Obama came in with this, nope. Veterans were only going to, that was it. They were only hiring veterans. Okay. Wow. So I was like, well, the short end of the stick, that sucks. Back to school. So I said, back to school. So I went back to school and finished up there. And while I was there, at Texas State San Marcos, I used to train in a gym called San Marcos Athletic Club. It's been around since the 70s. No. Even on their T-shirts, they have on there the oldest gym in Texas. Wow! And there's it's actually the gym's been in a few movies. There was Dazed and Confused. Yeah. The director of that came out with another movie, kind of set in more so the 80s. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the same kind of vibe, kind of premise. Yeah. It came out later. I mean, what was it? Dazed and Confused came out, I think, in the 90s. This newer movie came out like 2015, 16. And there are a few scenes of the gym because they shot the movie in San Marcos. Nice. And there was also, it was an ABC special show. It took place in this like the 60s or something with riots, and they were doing some TV special, and they shot it right outside the gym on the main drag as well. So it's got some history. It's got some stories to it, but it's been around since the 70s. But you go in there, and the owner, Bobby Warren, just an amazing guy. He's owned it ever since then. And he has original Nautilus equipment, and we're talking chain-driven, like stuff.
Like the original Nautilus.
The original. Yeah, Gen 1. So he had all that stuff in there. And it was, it's not the biggest, fanciest gym you've ever seen.
It's the best kind.
It was the environment. You don't find it anywhere. When you walked in there, you felt like it was 1977. Like you're just like, okay, I'm in the golden era of bodybuilding. It's time to train.
You go back a couple of decades, right?
Oh yeah, easily. And another thing too, he didn't even accept cards or any. There's no computers. It was just cash only.
Wow.
And like I think a day pass was like $5. So yeah,
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then so you talk about going to the gym. Again, you can see that you're a guy who's been training a long time. So how important was physical fitness to you?
It's always been a big thing, and that was part of going into. I mean, when you go into the line of work of like policing, firefighting, military, anything like that, it's especially being raised in a military family. It's just one of those things where I know, and some people will say that they'll disagree, but we all know it. Appearance, for the most part, is everything. For the most part, it's not everything, but it's when you look at somebody, you automatically. Sorry, just make sure.
No worries, check it out.
Okay. No, we're good. You automatically, you make assumptions. Not that you're judging somebody, but everybody does it. When you look at somebody, you can tell, okay, they're this or that. They're a threat, non-threat. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, if I'm going to be a cop or going to policing, military, whatever I decide to do, feds, I want to make a statement.
Yeah.
When I go in there, I don't want to be the guy that's like, hey, Joe Schmo, he's got to. He's got to work like 4 months. He's got to do another 4 months of training. He's not going to make cut the physical fitness test, or you look like a slob, or because having done this and gone into policing for roughly about 8 years, you automatically, and you hate to say it, but it's just the truth. You look at somebody and they walk in recruits, and you go, he's not going to make it. He's not going to make it. Yeah. He's not going to make it. Not that you want them to fail, but you can already tell where they're at with things.
Yeah. It's that we talk a lot of the statement when the whole purpose of the Layman's Lab is, first of all, to take complex things that seem complex, especially with entrepreneurs, how to become physically capable, spirituality, all those things, and try and make them as simple as possible. But one thing that a lot of people, I feel people miss, right, is the identity of someone walks in, that capability, especially someone who's you can see they're capable, right? They're athletically, you can see they have good muscle structure. They walk with their shoulders out, their chest is out. The minute you see someone walk in, it brings in an aura into a room, right? And as you say, is unfortunately you'd like to be able to say that everybody's the same, but everybody's not the same, right? And we talk about being capable. So a lot of our training philosophy of how we do is make sure that at any particular time you're capable, because you never know what's going to happen. You hope to God it's never going to happen. Right. But if it does happen, you're capable. And I think from a standpoint as you did for law enforcement, I think just generally in men, like every man out there, if you're listening, this doesn't matter if you work an office job, be capable. Absolutely. Try and be capable at every level you can do.
Yep. And some of it too, and it's like I can't lie with it, because it's like even originally the first time when I started lifting back in like high school, is the main motivation was I want to get girls. It started from that. Mm-hmm. And then, as with most things, I say with all things, it just, built and built and built, and then all of a sudden it transitioned to this, and then it, I realized, hey, this is going to help me in law enforcement, and I see what, when you put in the work and the results that you get from it, there are benefits to it. You reap the rewards, and it's just a state bodybuilding and working out. It's a testament to life, and it's an example of life, because it's what you put in is what you get.
Then you can see it. Yeah, no one can take it away from you. Right. I actually heard one of the greatest statements is, I'll state his name on here, but it's a doctor online, and he's a bodybuilder, but he's talking about a debate, and he says, you want to debate me? I got big arms. Because he goes, name me one person, name me right now one human being with big arms, and tell me that person with big arms you don't have respect for him. Name one. I can't think of one, because when he said it, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and think of someone who's got big arms, and I'm going to go, I don't respect that person. He goes, you cannot name one person. Someone's got a big pair of arms, like really muscular, not talking with some big shoulders, big arms, that stand there, you automatically have respect for that person, and it's not wrong.
Yeah. So you're talking about fitness in general. Like, I love law enforcement. I'm always in support of the people, men and women in uniform in general.
Yeah.
Just blanket statement there. But one of the things that I've never understood with law enforcement is overweight cops.
Oh.
Like, your life is on the line each and every day that you put that vest on and you go out to serve and protect. Why wouldn't you put your health and wellness as a priority? That's the part that doesn't make sense to me. Like, you literally are under gun and badge every day as law enforcement. Why wouldn't you make sure you're in peak physical condition so that your own life is protected?
Absolutely. And having done it, and seen it firsthand, usually what happens, and I think it's a and it can be a statement for the general population, and it's not everybody, but how there's what's the actual stats of people that actually work out. I mean, I don't know the actual stat, but it's like only 5% or whatever the actual population
percentage of the population
works out. Well, it's no different when you get into policing. What they do is a lot of people in policing and military, they'll do the bare minimum of what gets them through. So if they only have to work out they'll meet the standard. So if they only have to work out, train for, say the police academy is in December, okay, it's now June. All right, I'll start working out and stuff maybe next month, and then that gives them 3 months to kind of just run, do the push-ups, the sit-ups, the minimum what they have to do, and then that's it. And then also too, people, I think from the outside looking in, when you're first getting into this, you think that because you're kind of conditioned like, hey, it's a job.
Yeah,
it's a job.
Yeah.
You have a job, I have a job. You go to your job 9 to 5. That's just it's a job. It's how you get paid. It's like, little do you realize until you actually get into the thick of it, especially, and it can depend on where you work too, not to undermine anybody that works in smaller areas, departments, but when you work in a big city like Dallas, you realize, holy shit, every day is a shit show.
Yeah. Right.
Every day is like, okay, you're really, when they say,
a fucking war zone.
Absolutely. Because it's you, from the moment you get into service, it's robberies, murders. I mean, it is constant. It never goes away.
Well, like, this is like, there's a lot of videos out there, and unfortunately that we've had this environment for the past 5+ years. It's probably been longer than that, but it's really come to light the last 5 years of like, law enforcement bad, right? That's what the general population sees. So to me, again, if you think about the attacks that have come towards law enforcement, like, how many of these guys have had to fight for their lives that get outlasted by the bad guy because they're not in top physical condition?
Well, absolutely. And it's as an officer, there. I'm not saying it was every single time, but there have been times where I've talked with the suspect or after in handcuffs, and they said something to me like, man, I would have done this if you weren't in like, this is right now, I'm weighing in at like, say, I'm around 180.
Yeah.
Back when I was a cop, I was, roughly around 185, 200. So I had more weight than I did now. But they would say, man, I wasn't going to size you up.
Yeah, because a criminal by nature, right? He's a businessman. He's sizing out a situation, right? And in that situation, he wants to get as little damage as he can to himself. It's not as if he goes into a situation trying to damage himself, right? So when you see a cop go walk up to you and he looks physically capable, the risk ratio all of a sudden flips around. You go, maybe this is not the time to push the element.
Well, you can speak to this, I'm sure, but the criminal goes after the easy target. So I think about like our family in our home, right? We have 2 Dobermans. They're big, loud, mean-looking dogs. They're not mean, but they're protectors to a fault. But if you think about my house, who is a firearm-carrying house, who has Dobermans like that, my wife and I train. We also do like physical, like combative type trainings. We're a harder target for the criminal than the old lady down the street.
Yeah, but it's not even about hard. Is their risk ratio is way higher with you, so they'll look at you. There was a element where they spoke to a pedophile, a guy who literally looking for kids. That. Like, everyone's seen it, right? And he literally said, he goes, the first guy I look at is the dad. Yeah. If he looks like he's capable and he looks like he can take me on, I'm staying away from that kid, right? And if you're a man and you clicks in your hand, you go, oh my God. Yeah. Literally by working out and looking capable, I could save my child's life.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that, because that was going to be the next thing I was going to say, was that exact thing with that interview. But it's kind of this balance of control. Who immediately when you walk in the room, who has the control? And you can feel it. Yeah. You can feel it when you walk in because I'm walking into a house, so I have no idea. So you kind of always have to assert some type of dominance because you can't let them have the control. Because if they do, your life could end. And one thing with policing too, and our greatest asset, and not everybody thinks about it, is it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
So that is our prime. I mean, that's the real thing that we have in terms of, or we try to have always, and in terms of having an advantage is a numbers game.
Yeah.
Because I don't care if it's, if it takes us 4 guys to take one guy down that's on PCP and it's excited delirium. If we have to have it, we have to have it. But we need to have the numbers. And so it's always been this numbers game because we want to outnumber you no matter what.
So you can control the situation.
Right, to control the situation. And sometimes, and that's why, in my opinion, and this is what sucks about the landscape of it now, is you have departments where they're needing officers. And I'll get into some of this stuff too with recruitment and just giving you guys a background of what I went through, and I know others out there go through it too because it's absolute bullshit, some of the hiring process stuff that they do. But they're needing officers, and it's like when you have, because our station we would ride just one man. So I would be in my own squad. Everybody had to be in their own squad. Now there are days where you could marry up with somebody and you can have a partner. But in my opinion, if it's all about control and it's all about numbers game, you need to ride 2 men. You should always have two. You should always ride 2 men.
You should run like a military operation. Your military operation is to minimize as much damage and take control of the situation as quick as possible.
As quick as possible, absolutely. But then we would have higher up saying, no, we need to, because we have so few officers, we want to make it seem like we have more of us out there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's great, but what happens when somebody all of a sudden which has happened, I can't tell you how many times, because we have a button on our radios called the assist. You hit the button, assist officer, assist officer, assist officer, everybody goes silent on the radio, and you can hear, because when you hit the assist button, all radios elsewhere go silent.
Yeah.
And you can hear they have an open mic for you for about 10 seconds. Mm-hmm. So when they hit that assist, you will hear what's going on. You'll hear "get on the ground," or you'll hear just all. The scariest part is when you hear nothing.
Oh God, yeah.
That's the scariest part because usually you're used to hearing yelling, you're used to hearing fighting, wrestling, something. That's also scary. But the scariest thing is when you hear nothing because you're like, what is going on? That's when all hands on deck, everybody, whatever you're doing, drop it and head there. But you minimize that to a greater extent when you have at least 2
Makes
people.
sense. I got a question for you, right? So once you've now hit the police academy, you've run through that process, you've had your training in. Once you become a police officer, how much more training do you get?
So everybody thinks once you get out of the police, and I hate it because we had this after the police academy was over. You have this big ceremony, your family comes into town, and you have a nice dinner, and it's a big celebration. You made it. You did not make it. You did bullshit.
That's just the beginning.
Bullshit. You didn't do anything. You made it to the academy. Congratulations. Here's a cookie. It should literally be, you shouldn't have any celebratory anything until you were cut loose on the streets. Because you have what's called your field training.
Yeah.
And so your field training lasts, it can depend on the department, but ours was 16 weeks. And you'll have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then phase 4, which is called ghost phase.
Yes.
That's when the officer's riding alongside with you and for 2 weeks straight, and they pretend they're not there.
Yeah.
They are only there to assist if something gets out of hand.
Yes.
And it is, so imagine, and people say, I hate my boss sucks. I hate my boss. He's always up my ass. It's like, imagine your boss that you don't like, sitting next to you for a 12-hour shift, and he is writing down and observing every little thing that you do for 12 hours straight. Yeah. He's not in another room and you're over here on a desk. He is right next to you for 12, and you're dealing with situations you've never dealt with.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know many people that have dealt with a guy that's naked in a house with blood on him, pointing up at the ceiling saying he sees Jesus. And you walk into that and you're like, looking at your field training officer like, what do I do? And they're just, they're looking at you like, don't ask me, you handle it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, excuse me, sir. And I've walked into, one of the stories I've had was, there was, and this was I got good remarks this day.
Yeah.
But I walked in. It was a guy that had called. This happens all the time. People think I'm making this up, or it happens seldom. a guy calls in, says the FBI has wiretapped his house, and I've had multiple calls with that. But we get in there, and my field training officer at the time, he's a gruff guy. He's been around the block, but he's kind of hard-headed. Yeah. So this guy's telling him he's got a tinfoil hat on, and he's saying that I wear this because they tapped it. They tapped it, and they can hear everything that we're doing here.
Wow.
So I just he's like, you need help. What's the deal? He's trying to get to the point. We're tired of this, and he's like, well, no, I can't talk to you. I can't talk to any of you. You don't have the helmets on. And so, all the officers are going, the old parts are just like, cussing and up a storm, like, come on, like, man, it's like, they're getting the point, we're going to take you, you don't, and he's like, and
obviously nothing's registering. Right?
No, nothing's registering. So I see he's got like a bunch of tinfoil helmets made. So, okay, I go and grab a tinfoil helmet. I'm kind of in the background. I put the helmet on. He goes, I'll talk to you. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I step up and I go, okay, tell me what's going on. And he's like, well, my sister was over here, and is she still here? And I said, well, she might be here, might be not. I'm not sure. Okay, well, yeah, she's here, and yeah, I punched her in the face. I popped her because she was telling me I'm crazy, and I'm not. And it's like, so you hit her, and then the other officers there like, look.
Yeah.
He just admitted it. But if I hadn't put on the stupid helmet,
you could have escalated this to a bad situation.
Right. And then they could have gone, and then we would have really had, for the most part, granted, we would have had something because the sister said that, he hit me, it's domestic violence, so we got to do something anyways. But it's always nice when you have...
admission.
You have the offender saying, hey, I hit him.
If you did... Okay, so this leads me to my next question, right? Because... if you hadn't taken that initiative to kind of break the situation down instead of running in with rage and aggression, because I can imagine you go from 0 to 120 like this, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if that person's got a weapon. You know if he's going to, like, you were walking into an unknown. So, for anyone out there is, you've watched videos where you'll have multi-liberal people saying, no, cops shouldn't pull a gun. And then they put them in the same situation and they shoot before the person. I cannot blame any police officer for reacting the way, especially with the danger you put into. However, with that said, how much training do you actually get to deal with this shit?
So a lot of the training that they give you, and the guys that we had, thankfully at our department, we had some really good range instructors, and they were doing the best that they could with the resources that we had. But in terms of like the actual training, a lot of it you kind of have to do on your own.
So it's on-job training.
Yeah, and the main thing, when they say, because they really say that you're a junior officer really until you hit your 5-year mark.
Yeah,
and it makes sense because if you compare a 5-year officer to a 1-year officer, it's night and day difference just because of what you've seen, what you know what to handle. Because every time you go through a situation, you should, I don't know if everybody does, but after everything you should process, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
What could I have done better? And then the next time, okay, I've been in something like this before. I know what to do. Okay, I do this now. Okay. And it makes a big difference. But a lot of it is some of the training too, because you have your standards that the state has to provide and things like that. But a lot of it's just, hey, here's a
guy, like a very, very roundabout guy, but not really training.
Well, they'll do a lot, like you got to go do this PowerPoint and sit through these classes and things like that. And it's like, that's all great and stuff, but it's, the best thing you do is the best type of training you can really get is for one, the experience being out there, but the scenarios. Scenarios are a big thing. And this is why I think, because after your field training, you're then cut loose on your own.
Yeah.
And in just my opinion, this is where the two-man thing comes into play. That first-year officer, because even when you get cut loose, you're still on a probation period. So if you screw anything up, they can be gone with you even under civil service. So civil service, you have more protections. But even in that 1-year time, if you do anything, they can just get you. They can get rid of you for any reason.
Yeah.
But if you that's why I think it's. Even when you get cut loose, you should still ride merry with somebody.
Yeah.
They look at you as you're an officer, but you're just riding together because you are going to pick up things. You can't you can't pick up everything in 16 weeks. And the thing too that doesn't make, and it sucks, is when you're in field training, phase 1 is obviously supposed to be, they split it up into percentages. You do 25% of the work, your FTO does 75.
Yeah.
So then you're kind of observing the FTO, and then all of a sudden you go to phase 2, it's now 50-50. Phase 3, you're 75, they're 25. Ghost phase, it's just you.
Yeah.
You're not going to grasp that, especially in a major city, within 16 weeks.
So that's only 16 weeks of that whole process.
So 16 weeks of that whole process, then you are cut loose on your own. They make the determination after ghost phase if you can do it or not. But in my mind, it's like, cut them, you're cut loose, you're an officer, they recognize you as that, but still have somebody ride with you. Because then you're still going to pick up things.
So through the 5-year process, right? So, and I'm with you 100%, is there's nothing that's going to probably prepare you for what you're going to deal with, especially in a big city, as much as being out in the field and doing this, right?
Right.
But now in this 5-year process, do you ever get called back in for a fitness assessment, reassessing on your skill sets, or is it kind of you just go do the job?
Physical fitness, absolutely not. And the other thing is, which they should, but the other thing is you do have your I would say, and they're not exercises, you do have an actual firearms evaluation test that you have to do. You have to get in with such a certain percentage, which sadly, I mean, some people they miss the mark on that. And then they have to, then you have to go through like a 2-week training thing. But for the most part, it's if you've been doing this profession, you want to do it, you'll be fine in marksmanship and you'll be able to get through it. But that's really it.
The only requirement.
Yeah, that's it. Once a year they have that.
See, that's me. So I've got a good friend of mine who's up in Canada, right? And I've had in-depth, shout out to Corey, I've had so many conversations with them on the training levels of what they do in Canada. And the one thing I've found is the support structure on their training levels are way higher in Canada than the US, because they have retraining systems where they go in and reevaluations that they do I think if I'm not mistaken, at least on every 6 months. This is not anything on the guys in the field. The guys in the service field, this is about the support for them, to make sure that they have every single tool available to them, so that when they go out in the field, they're 100% know what they're going to get into, and they keep getting new advanced information to allow them to deal with situations. Because my mindset, as I've always thought with law enforcement, especially as you've explained it, is you have two types of personalities, right? You've got the guy, Matt, goes in, I want to get into law enforcement, I come from a military family, I want to serve. You want to serve your country, you want to serve your community, you want to serve your city. Your mindset when you go in is using your skill sets as you did, is kind of figure out a suspect, find the most efficient way to de-escalate the situation.
Absolutely.
But then you've got the second guy that goes in there who may need a little bit more pushes and training. Right, and if you throw this person within 16 weeks into that type of super stressful situation, I can imagine that your mind must take a hell of a smack. Mentally, how do you get through that?
Absolutely, because when I was doing the field training, it's like one of the things is you almost kind of constantly remind you, and I can tell my classmates and everybody had pretty much the same feeling, is you don't like going to work. Wow. You don't enjoy it, especially too. Another aspect of it is when you're doing the field training, they're going to try and expose you to every different type of shift. Yeah. So you might be going from day shift on first phase to night shift second phase, evening shift on the third, then back to nights. You're all over. Your sleep schedule is screwed. And another thing too, and this is when you get out, you'll notice this. At least at our department was, and I think it should just be outlawed. Outright is they mandate you to work 16 hours.
What?
Oh, absolutely. So, say you worked and this happened numerous times, and I couldn't stand it. Say you worked, and I worked nights a lot. I liked night shift. I'm kind of a night owl anyways, but I just always loved it. Say I go to work at 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Yeah. All of a sudden you get a notice, and it can happen because somebody called in sick. All of a sudden, 10 minutes before you're heading home, you're ready to go home, you're tired. Hey, blah, 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 call 2030. You call 20, yes, sir? So called in. You're going to have to stay over. We're mandating you for another 4 hours. So now you're, getting off at 10 o'clock by the time you get home, shower, whatever. It's now 11:30, 12, and then you got to be back at 6 o'clock the next day. Wow. Or that night. And they had a thing, too. I'll never forget. I said, this is the most hypocritical bullshit I've ever seen. They had on the board in one of our patrol rooms for lineup, your officer safety goes down by 70% if you get, less than 7 hours of sleep.
But we make
but they mandate that you can't.
You mandate those to come in. You get and some guys, if some guys live far out, and because it's Texas, they
got to drive too.
It'd be like an hour drive for them.
Wow.
So they might only get 3 hours of sleep, and it's like, so you're really going to pull this on us and then your officer safety, and you're touting it, saying, make sure to get your sleep, guys.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you pull the rug out from under them and say, you're mandated to work 16.
How much at the front level did you feel politics involved with decisions made?
Oh, absolutely. It was in terms of there's two political aspects to it. There's like the county politics, Dallas County, what they want, and then there's the politics inside the department.
Yeah.
So you have your higher ups and guys that are trying to work their way up through the ranks, and they're trying to game the system, and this is just how we do things. There's the Garland way of doing things, and like the Dallas way of doing things, and then there's Dallas County, what they request. So like for instance, they're hit a point where Dallas County, which is a liberal county, at some point they came out and they said, hey, we're not taking any more thefts over $750 or under $750. So once the criminal enterprise realized, hey, they're not following the charges. Well, hey, let's make sure when we go to steal something that it's under $750. And they calculate it out. And I notice a lot of times when you go to make arrests, and they'd be at like $720 something. And you're like, you guys just did this to because the game,
obviously.
And then you're standing there and you're like, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point of my job?
Which is happening in California heavily.
That's what I found. I've had so many discussions with the people in there, because working through a police force is a very good political game. If you want to be a politician, and you can work your way through the police system, and you can work your way up to commissioner, and then you have a good standpoint politically. And I've always found there's two types of cops. There's the one who, again, wants to serve, and then there's the one who's, this is a job and I'm trying to climb the ladder, right? And I don't care. I'll switch faces, especially in a liberal county. I'll switch faces according to whatever I need to do to climb the ladder.
Right.
So if they tell me to implement a crazy policy like we're not going to hire any men anymore, and we're only going to hire women who are 5'2" that have blue hair, and they're going to be the cops, and no one goes, okay, but are we sure this is conducive to protecting and serving the community? And everyone goes, no, don't question this, right? Because this happens. Right. This is what happens in these situations. And what I've always found is those guys who control that, because what I found is they game the system. They avoid active duty par none. They find ways to work around having to go do the shit work.
Yeah.
And then they climb the ladder and they get to a certain point. And then these are the guys who are in charge of making decisions of how to actually run the bottom levels, because the guys doing the shit work will never get up there, because you're not trying to game the system. You're just working your ass off. Yep. So and I've seen this with my cop buddy in Canada. They come with the weirdest rules. So the OPP in Canada had a rule, I think it's still in place. If you're on a highway, right, so this is Ontario Provincial Police, they man the highways. If a suspect's on a highway and he's doing 140 miles an hour, right, you're not allowed to chase him. Just get his license plate. But if you don't get it, don't chase him. Because you will create more damage by chasing a suspect and stopping him than possibly the damage he's going to cause by chasing. Now think about that.
Part of me agrees.
Part of it makes sense, right? But what if you didn't catch who he is, right? So how do you mitigate that? Because now you don't know what the situation is. Possibly if you chase him, and let's play two sides, right?
Put a bird in the sky and follow him.
Right, fair enough. But there's no birds available. Because that's the problem, is there's limited resources. And this is why Canada puts so much effort into training their police force. Right, the reason they put so much more money into training is because they can't get people to join fast enough. The same problem we have here. The only difference is I think the training, depending on the county, is less influenced. So they try and upskill the training of the actual officer so that he can deal with situations. There was a situation. I'll find the video and I'll send it to you. So this is a Toronto police officer who's got a suspect who's threatening to shoot people. They don't know if he has a gun or not. Right, he's standing. There's cameras all around him. Right, now think of the situation in the U.S. If that guy was there and there was even an inkling that he had a gun, how long would he last? Realistically,
you're saying it for here or for
here?
Oh, if he had a realistically...
If they think he has a gun, right? If he says, I've got a gun, and he starts doing this, what's going to happen?
Oh, geez.
He's getting taken out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
This cop intuitively realized and saw the guy didn't, right? Control the situation and talked him down. The guy literally almost went under to pull a gun as if he had a gun, probably 6 times. And the officer, through his training, actually de-escalated the situation. Now, I'm not saying this applies to anything, but the training that they have there and of how they put it in has made a difference to how they deal with the situations.
Oh, no, absolutely. Because it's in the training aspect, like you're saying. We have a saying in policing is you always fall back on your training, no matter what. Because you're going to go into situations every day that you've never you don't know what to expect, and you've never had this. Even a 30-year cop could say he goes into some house and he's like, "Holy,
something he's never seen before."
And so, what are you going to do? You're instantly going to fall back on what you know what your training is, and like you're getting to. There have been plenty of videos out there where you have officers that they jump the gun, literally, where they pull out the gun, boom, goes off, and they shoot. And all of a sudden they find out they didn't have a weapon and they didn't have this. And once again, why did they do that? They fell back on just what they know. Yeah. Because they don't know how to handle the situation.
I think a really important component to this, and this is where, like, my background being military, I've been fortunate to know some guys that have done a lot of stuff like overseas. And the one thing that one of them specifically, and again, I'm kind of talking around things to be cautious, but they've attempted to help law enforcement training. Yeah. But a lot of law enforcement agencies or departments have resisted any help.
Absolutely. The good old boys.
For whatever political reasons, right?
Because if you spend money in the wrong places, I can't allocate it somewhere else.
Well, but let me make the point I'm trying to make. And again, this is not I'm not coming from a place of no, but I've been in situations that have created fear, nothing like what you guys do with law enforcement. However, fear is very real in life and death situations, and you don't know how you're going to respond. That's why training is so important. Yes. Right? Because the reactions that you have, and I think that's like to the example you just talked to, these guys are feared for their life, so they just react based on the fear, and their training should be the one that takes over. Mm-hmm. And if the training is not up to par, you're going to make the mistakes. Yeah. You know, and I think that's what's unfortunate. I want to finish up this topic, but I really want to dive into some of the mental health aspect to what law enforcement goes to. Yeah. Because I think that's really important. But
see, for me is, and we'll skip over this as we go. That's where the training for me comes in, because, you know, sitting as an outsider, as a foreigner coming to the United States, the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life is defund the police. It makes no sense to me. Like, you should be doubling the funding for the police and just making sure it goes straight to that officer who's got to put his ass in the line, make sure he's well equipped, well trained, ready to go.
It means nothing.
But yet, look what it did to so many departments. Like right now, I think for the first time in 8 years, you actually have people who want to become cops again. For the last 8 years, and cops have been embarrassed about being police officers, which is the biggest bullshit I've ever seen.
Should be proud.
It is one of the most noblest forms of service you could do. And when you look at the ratio, I'm a numbers guy, right? Is you look at the sheer numbers. You know, when you talk about police killings, when you talk about any type of shooting, look at the ratios. The ratios are of the lowest on earth. Mm-hmm. It's not look at the numbers. The numbers are of the lowest numbers on earth. You know, and I'm talking about coming from a country where if I call the cops, they're not coming. Mm-hmm. They're not even answering the phone. And if they do, they say that there's no fuel in the car, I'm not coming, or you're white, I'm not coming. Literally, this is South Africa. Like, depending on who I'm speaking to on the phone, right? Unless I've told them someone's dead in my yard, no one's coming.
Well, and that was part of one thing I realized when I was doing it too, because, I mean, I grew up in Iowa for the most part. I'm a nice guy. I'm not an ass. I'm not that guy with the, going out there to try and just, ruin your day. Because one of my things too was, and it was the biggest complaint I think I had from higher ups with me for the most part is, and I'm like I said, I'm a very easygoing guy. I like to get along with everybody. And it was kind of the running joke was, I don't pull traffic stops. Yeah. Hey, you got it. Granted, they didn't have quotas. They just had, you need to do 5 stops. Yeah. I didn't care to do it because
that's not your function.
It's not my function, and I hated the aspect of, okay, I'm gonna go say I pull somebody over. They had this, and this violation. Yeah. I don't want to stick an everyday American with the $300 something ticket because I don't know what their situation is. Obviously, something's egregious where,
that's different.
A guy goes past me at 100 miles an hour and it's in a 30 mile an hour like street or kid street or something where kids are playing.
Yes,
absolutely.
That's different. I get that.
the other stuff, it's like I just had this aspect of, okay, because I was there, I was working with the George Floyd and all that stuff, and it's like, I hope everybody realizes we do have to, you do kind of have to put on a little bit of a show and rebuild your brand a bit sometimes. So my thing was, I'm not going to go after everyday citizens and giving them tickets. I'm going to go where I am needed the most.
You're going to protect and serve.
Right. I'm going to focus on that, because I don't believe in trying to stick it to the everyday American. Not saying that all cops do, but there are some that I've seen where they're like, I wrote this many tickets today and this and that, and they just felt good about it. And I'm just going, why?
If you want to, so it's so funny you brought that up, because Corey, who's a officer in Canada, right, has the exact same philosophy as you. His philosophy is, my job is to protect. Giving someone a traffic ticket for not stopping for the full 3 seconds at a stop street is not really conducive to protecting them. It's protecting the people around me. So he's got the same mindset, and every cop I speak to that's a good cop that wants to serve is of the same opinion. What I have noticed though is, especially where he comes from in Canada, is depending on how many tickets you write is how quickly you climb the ladder. How much money you make for the department is dependent on how high they cite you for actual promotions.
Thankfully, with my department, and I've heard that a lot of agencies they do that. But thankfully with us, that their how you work the way up, that necessarily wasn't it. Thankfully, they didn't. That wasn't criteria for it.
Yeah.
Now, if you wanted to get into the traffic department,
different story.
Traffic, absolutely.
Completely. That's your point.
You had. I know guys that were like, they wanted to be traffic, and the reason they wanted to be part of the traffic division, because you get a motorbike. You get to ride around. You just write tickets for the most part, and then you go home. You work during the day. You work at night.
None of the worst danger that you can do.
Not at all. It's a great gig.
Yeah.
So those guys, they'd be out there, hunting tickets and trying to come up with kooky cockamamie things of like, the 3-second rule. You didn't fully stop, and I found this, and they were doing that. But from my point of view, it's like, hey, I'm more of a call service guy. If somebody's, I'm waiting for you. Somebody's to call me, or proactive and going out there and looking for certain things. But the main thing I felt with, especially when I was working my time on patrol, was you're gonna, there's so, especially in the Dallas area, you have so many people calling in. I'm going to be busy. Yeah. And I want to be available.
And I mean, that's city like the Dallas. I could imagine that must be crazy working those hours.
It was always, and I did, because you're kind of your next thing up from, say, like a promotion from patrol is field training. So I was a field training officer, and I was actually on, not boasting or bragging, but it was a moment on Fox News Channel.
Oh yeah.
It was on not Fox and Friends, but it was the show that was after that with. I can't remember the name, but it was one of the morning shows, and they interviewed myself and another officer. But this is back when I was a field training officer, and this is my first rookie.
Yeah.
And he's in, what is he in? I think he was in, it was first phase. And we're working nights, and we're driving by the station, and it's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Road's empty. All of a sudden, a truck drives past us at, I think it was when they looked everything in the computers, it said like 120 miles an hour.
Wow.
And this is right past the police station. And, my rookie's driving, and he looks over at me like, I'm going to chase. It's time to chase. Like car chase. Yes, let's do this. And I said, no. Do not hit the light. I said, just slowly tail him, because there was the road that we were on. It has a very sharp curve.
Yeah.
I said, you turn on those lights. If he's going 120 miles an hour, he's now going to be trying to go 140.
Yeah. It's going to cause a problem.
And regardless, I said, we're trailing him, but within, I'd say 5 seconds after he passed us, I see the car. I'm like, here it goes. He's not slowing down. Tries around the corner, doesn't, hits the curb, flies up into the air, does probably, I would say, about 6 to 7 rolls in the air.
Wow.
Catches on fire midair, and I see a body fling out of the car midair. And I'm talking midair, probably at least 20 feet, 25 feet in the air. And I'm just going, you got to be kidding me. Here we, he's just like deer in headlights, and I'm like, here we go. Like, this is my night. This is a normal night. And he's over here just like, what do we do? And I'm like, give me the radio. So give me the radio. Say, and we roll up, and of course the car's on fire. We're the only ones on scene. Thankfully, we are close to the station, so there are people coming around. They're hurried trying to get there. But there's the one guy that flung out of the vehicle. He's on the ground. I check his pulse. He's alive. He's near the vehicle on fire. So I'm like, all right, grab him. We need to drag. So we drag him away from the fire. And because this is a thing. I'm not saying that I know, but some people in that situation, they might have their rookie come and stay with them.
Yeah.
But I told him, I said, look, you're gonna have to stay with him.
Yeah.
Because if he all of a sudden comes to, or he needs assistance,
yes,
but he takes off, gone.
Yeah.
So I said, you stay with him.
Which this is. People watching this, you'd have the imagination that someone who's 20 feet in the air, flinged out of a car,
doesn't survive.
No. Forget survive. Like, he's laying on the floor. He must be broken, right? How many times have you seen someone that's close to death jump up and run?
Oh, plenty of times.
It's insane. Your body, like that adrenaline spike, or whatever drugs they have in the system,
or whatever, the adrenaline too.
Well, but here's the kicker too, and I'll get with it. Well, just kind of jumping ahead. That guy that we pulled away from the vehicle, he was fine. Because you know what? He was drunk.
Yes. He was drunk.
So
it's always like
the drunks, they're so limber. They just go with the flow, and they never hurt anything.
Yeah.
Hit some bruises. That's it.
I've seen that before.
So I told him to stay back, and the car is literally engulfed on fire.
Wow.
And at least the back portion of it where the gas tank is.
Yeah.
Go figure. And so I go up to the vehicle. I'm like, well, I got to at least check
if someone's in there, right?
And there's smoke, and there's if I'm inhaling it, and I'm holding my flashlight because I'm thinking that it might help me. I don't know, but it was one of those things. And this is kind of going after. This is kind of going where you reevaluate after you watch a video.
Yeah.
And you go through things. In that moment, I'm holding my flashlight. I'm looking for something. The flashlight's not doing anything. But you know what it is? It's just it's my reflex of I usually have a flashlight trying, and it's almost like my as a baby has a binky.
Yes.
Like I'm just using it, like it's making me feel comfortable because I think I'm doing something with it, but it does nothing. And so I'm holding the flashlight because when I reevaluated afterwards, I'm like, dude, put the flashlight away. It's not doing shit. Why are you holding it? But after a moment, all of a sudden I see a guy slumped over in the front passenger, and I'm going, oh shit. So I radio away. I'm like, hey, we got another one here. I got a guy. So I finally put the flashlight away. The car door, mind you, is jammed.
Yeah.
And so one thing I quickly think of is, okay, it looks like it's jammed. I pull on the door handle. It's locked. Thankfully, I was calm enough to realize, hey, dumbass, all right, let's reach in and let's flick the lock. Let's check the lock on the inside because the window's broken.
Yeah.
So let's check the lock and maybe boom, all of a sudden the door opens and I pull them out. So I go to do that. I flick the thing because, the flames are in the car.
They're right there, right?
No, they're right there. And so I flick it, try to open it. Nope, it's locked because the frame is like kind of crushed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, great. And you see the flames, and it's burning your eyes and your throat, your breath, and like you're just like, dude. And I'm trying to get him out. Thankfully, one of the other officers came and assisted me. And then this is why it made the news, was because the flames, they're now at his feet, and he's starting to kind of come to because he feels his feet kind of burning.
Yeah.
And come on, man, give us a hand. We're grabbing. And one of the officers, we have to grab his hair. I got another arm. We both grab his hair, and we just pull him out last second.
Wow.
And then, we get him out of there, and we have the body-worn cameras, and I take a step back as I'm coughing and trying to just catch my breath, and my camera catches, you see just the rest of the car then within seconds just engulfed.
Jeez.
And it's like...
So like last second,
absolutely. Because his feet were literally, the fires were there, and he was coming to, and you could hear him going, He starts, because he feels it. He's like, oh shit, oh shit, I'm burning. And was what?
Was he drunk?
He was drunk. Yeah. He was the driver, and he was intoxicated. So,
wow.
And the kicker was, usually in that scenario, since you're a field training officer, it's like, okay, you've got these two subjects pricked out. Oh, it's a DWI. He's intoxicated. So now you guys got to do the DWI after this, and that can be because you're going to have to get blood, take him to the hospital. It could take 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 2 a.m. already. There's another 6 hours on top of that, and I'm having to train him and how to do the DWI. And I just looked at everybody and said, I'm not doing after this whole situation. I said, somebody else can do the DWI. I'm not doing it. I'm going home.
Yeah.
I'm done today. I am shutting it off. Like, I did my part. I'm tired. I'm done.
But just from a mental aspect, right? So, literally, like just what you spoke us to, right? So, if anyone, like, I've had experiences where, you know, you drive on a road and there's maybe a field fire next to you, right? And now this isn't a road. You're in a car. You're 10 feet away from it. You feel that heat. Can you imagine, like, just imagine for a second, in that second, there's someone's life on the line, there's your life on the line, right? You don't know when the car's going to, what timing do you have? You literally, what you're doing is you're putting your life on the line to save another human being who's technically a drunk asshole who got into an accident and could have potentially killed 10 other people.
Right.
Right. And you're putting your life on the line to get this person out of danger and get in. Right. After that, was there any type of psychological system where they said, listen, we need to sit down and we need to talk about what happened so we can help you deal with this?
Absolutely not. I went home. I went to sleep at, like, you know, I maybe fell asleep. It took me probably about 2 hours to fall asleep, but then you just wake up the next day and it's like, it's go time again. But it was, because playing into that, you're saying, because one of the things running through my head when I was trying to get him out and pull him out, I'm like, oh, this is going to... I knew him instantly when I saw the guy, because I'm walking up there with the flashlight and I'm going, please, God, do not have anybody, please, because this is going to be bad.
Because you know the potential, right?
This is going to be bad. And all of a sudden, oh, jeez, there's the guy. He's in there. Okay, let's saddle up, partner. Here we go.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking in my head, like, because I know flames. It's not like the movies where there's a big boom, kaboom, and explosion. I know it's not going to happen. The tires they'll pop, and you'll go, oh. But what can happen is there could be, if it hits a certain, you know, all of a sudden it gets a surge, it hits the gas or line or something, it can go a quick little whoosh. And I'm like, if we get a whoosh, it's gonna hit me. It's gonna hit me in the face, right? And it could burn my eyes. I'm like, holy shit, I could lose my eyesight here. Like, oh, this is dicey,
scary. Yeah.
But
you put all of that aside to save a life.
But then at the end of the day too, you think about it and you're like, okay, the life I just went to save. It's a guy that's drinking and driving, and you go to save his. And I'm glad it did. I mean, because he could have it, you know.
He's got a family. You don't know.
Right, exactly. I'm not saying he's a dirtbag and I'm never going to save him. But you're like, at the end of the day, you're like, hey, I didn't just save, you know, grandma from a fire, you know, you saved the day. It's like you saved somebody that put themselves in this position and then put you and your life in this position.
And potentially could have killed how many people in this just doing what they did.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I had a friend on New Year's Eve that was hit. His family was coming home from a New Year's Eve party. His daughter drove, and a drunk driver was on the wrong side of the road. It was up in Brooksville, hit him head on, killed my friend, and then the rest of the family was all injured severely, but from a drunk driver. I'll never forget this night. There was a night where, because I'm used to we're having to transfer, and that was another thing too with lack of manpower. They would call us back to the station and have to transport prisoners to the hospital. Wow. Anytime the prisoner said, like, "Oh, I've got this. Oh, I got something in my stomach. It hurting me," they're just BSing you. They just want to get out of the cell. They have to call you, and then an officer has to go take him. You have to sit. Sometimes you could sit there for 4 or 5 hours. Yeah, and it's like, talk about a waste of resources. Yes. I'm like, why do we not have a hired personnel that is licensed peace officer that can carry a gun and can take them from we have that on staff. They always say, funding and stuff like that. You can find the funding.
Listen, most I don't know which level of prison is, county prison may be, but most prisons are privatized.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, they're private. These are private entities. This is one of the biggest unknown things that people know is owning prisons in the United States is a $1 billion, almost $1 trillion industry.
Well, a lot of the government space is contracted out a lot, right? Yeah. I there's so much ground we could cover, so many different topics. I really want to dive in. Like, you just shared a pretty powerful story. And veteran suicide is a big thing in this country that's a lot of guys have struggled with. But what's not talked about, in my opinion, enough is law enforcement's mental health struggles. Yeah. I think it's starting to come more and more to the forefront. But like you just said, like that traumatic event that you went through, you went home, went to bed, got back up, and went to work the next day, and just had to deal with it.
But even one step further than that, right? So you get up, you've done that, right? No one knows you've done this. You get up the next day, and now you've got to deal with some asshole who's calling you a pig and telling you, how dare you, for just following, this kind of...
And they have no idea you just saved somebody's life.
You know what I mean? So, go ahead.
As somebody who's... Like, my own journey with mental health has been significant, right? My deployments that I've had 3 deployments overseas. And I'm fortunate that I'm not one of the worst ones. I'm not one of the bad ones, and I've had my own struggles. So in your experience, like what does law enforcement need to be supported with mental health to help you guys and girls to like deal with these daily events that are significant?
There are some departments in agencies that they'll, and I think it makes a lot of sense. You go through something traumatic like that, or some incidents. I wouldn't say it fully affected me traumatically, but it was one of those things where, like you said, you go to sleep and it's on your mind for the next week. Like, things could have gone way worse.
Yeah,
right.
And I've had plenty of those instances. But what they'll do is, let's say there's an officer involved shooting. Some agencies, what they'll do is they'll pull you out of patrol for a month or two. They'll put you in like CID and have you work a desk job just to let you decompress.
Yeah,
the agency I worked at, none whatsoever. I know officers would have an officer involved shooting. They'd be out for 3 days and then back working. 3 days.
Wow.
3
That's
days.
not
They
enough
just,
time.
they just
Regardless of what the incident was.
Right, regardless of it.
Wow.
They could have just killed somebody 3 days ago and they're back out there. I know guys that got shot. One guy, there was a hijacked bus and the hijacker was shooting with an AR-15, and one of the rounds he shot, because our officers are tailing the bus, he shot through the back window of the bus that he and another guy had hijacked.
Yeah.
And he's shooting, and one of the bullets, and it's a 5.56, hits the windshield, because as you know, it can deflect whichever way.
Yeah.
And it skims right here
Wow.
on his left cheek.
Yeah.
And he was, a millimeter away from fractured skull. Who knows what? It kills him.
Yeah.
And I saw him all of a sudden after that incident. I saw him the next day, and he's suiting up, and it's like, dude, you just got shot.
Yeah, what's going on?
Literally. And he's like, and he's ready to roll.
Yeah.
There was no.
But I think what happens with a lot of it, and that could be a pride or ego thing, but I think, and I experience it too, because some guys are high-level elite performers, and there's just a component of, dude, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I have a couple friends that have shared stories with me about, like, even just in combat situations that they were in. Like, one guy was telling me about a story where I think it was his medic got shot through the neck, plugged his hole, kept fighting.
Yeah.
They fixed him when he got back. Somehow he miraculously survives this, and then he was back. If I remember the story right, he was back in combat within like a week.
It's the nature of men, right? Because you got to roll that back to just every day, right? So as men, as we just keep pumping along, but the problem is at some point that pot is going to bubble over.
It does.
And generally when it bubbles over, it's not going to happen at the most convenient time. What happens is you can take things to a certain point. I always talk about men are a pressure cooker, right? The pressure builds, and then we release pressure. And it builds, and releasing pressure could be having a good home environment. You could go to the gym. It could be many different things, right? And as extreme as it sounds, it doesn't matter if you're a cop, right? Because by definition, you've chosen what the division in. You kind of expect you're going to be in the shit at some point.
Oh yeah, it finds you.
Right, it finds you. Like it's just the nature of what you do. And then whether it's that or it's someone who's struggling, we're all entrepreneurs. You're struggling with your business. That's still pressure building. But I think as men, what happens is we don't really understand the difference of when that pressure is too much or too little. And usually where that pot explodes is when everything's going for shit. And when it does with that is everybody's different. But if you can find those position points, and in the police, to me it would be is there needs to be a decompression point. There needs to be a point where not even necessarily therapy, just a point where you can sit down and you have a process to take them through. They can decompress, release that pressure, get back out in the field. But you have to have it, and you have to assess that pressure because not everybody has the same ability to deal with pressure as everybody else. You could have that professional you're talking about. He might be mentally fine after being shot in the neck, or he may not be. But until you assess that and you can actually find mechanisms to help these guys deal with this, right? And we're talking on a professional, high stress, high danger jobs, but just on day-to-day levels, right? Just men on there. How many people do we know? And I'm sure you can attribute to this. Guys who are just living their everyday lives, who just hit a point and go, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do." Right now, if you've been in a high pressure situation like you have, you can look at that and go, "Wow, that's nothing." But if you've never been on that, this is daily struggles. And whether we're talking about a vet who's kind of going, oh my God, I've got PTSD, how am I going to deal with it, which you've dealt with. Me as a foreigner who just came from another country who had to deal with shit, or you who've been in law enforcement, at some point you've got to deal and find ways to kind of even this out. And I think there's got to be more training and more support given, especially on those levels. I don't think you guys need support in the field. I think you need training so that when you're in the field, I think the cops you have in the United States are the best on earth. I have nothing but respect for every person who serves, because they're there to protect you, right? And yes, you're going to get a bad apple in the group. It happens in everything.
Always.
But there's way more good cops than there are bad cops.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
100%. But those guys need support, and that support needs to be funding, and that funding needs to be not getting more cops, training, or buying things or doing things, or DEI, or putting money in places that doesn't really help the purpose. We need more cops that are well trained, that have the support of the community and funding to be able to let them do their jobs and decompress when they need to. You can't have the situation where we need to seem like we have more cops, so we're going to put one in a car. Right. That's not really conducive to me. Let's get more funding, make sure there's 2 cops in a car, make sure one's an experienced vet, the other one's a rookie, and you make sure that they can support each other.
Right. I mean, if they tout it as a numbers game with like policing, you want to have the numbers, you want to have the bodies, then give us the numbers, because then it will help immensely. And
give the incentives, man.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've seen some counties where cops make as little as $35,000 a year.
I would
That's
never.
That's why I never did it.
I would never do it. Thankfully, our department, it paid. I mean, you could make. I think we're starting around 70.
Yeah.
And then it went up to it now goes over. Once you hit your 10-year mark, it's at like 109.
And that's what it should be. That should be more as far as if you're a good cop, you should get paid. Yeah. This is the one thing where the candidate is pretty well.
If you want the best, you have to compensate. You have to make an incentive for them to get there.
I'm telling you, man. I did.
And if you look at special operations guys, like they'll all admit to you the reason that what makes them so good is not that they're superhuman or any better than anybody else. Is that they've trained so much that their repetitions and their default reactions are superior to everybody else.
Just better than everyone else. Yeah.
Because they've done it so much.
Well, it's like in business, you put out the incentives. You're going to have. You have a big pool of people to choose from, and you can be picky with it. And part of the problem with a lot of agencies now is they can't be picky. They've had to lower their standards. And I know our department officially has had to lower the standards. Just called a guy just last week just to check in on him and see how things are going. He said, yeah, everything's going good with me. I said, how are the new recruits? And they're like, yeah. Well, they can't really get rid of anybody now for failing physical fitness or any of that.
I think that's bullshit.
That's how low the standards go.
That's how low the standards are.
That's ridiculous.
They even had, and this is coming from my dad, who he was a colonel in the Air Force. Yeah. And he graduated from the Air Force Academy, so he's all about Air Force. He lives in Colorado Springs right now just because he wants to be close to the academy and the cadets and be a part of that, because it's a big part of his life. He was telling me the other day, he said, we just had a class of cadets that were caught cheating. He said 15 of them were caught cheating. And he said they let us know that they just gave him a slap on the wrist. And he said, I'm effing pissed. And he sent letters and emails and everything talking to his. I mean, he was a colonel. He had some status with it, but he's calling up his buddies who are generals and saying, "Are you pissed about this?" And they're like, "I'm pissed about it." And so they're sending messages saying, this is bull, because if we did this back in our day in the academy, you got caught cheating, you were done.
Well, I saw Pete Hegseth just put out an order to whoever, I guess, general staff, but basically they're reevaluating all the standards of the military again.
They have to.
Absolutely.
But with that there's got to be second, right? So I'm really happy they have the Make America Healthy Again movement, but I saw a stat the other day that I think 70% of 18-year-old men, boys, will not pass a basic physical.
That doesn't surprise me.
Right now, how do you up the numbers of the military, even the police service, if you cannot pass a basic physical? Like we need to get that way back into schools.
It's because they took physical fitness out of our kids. I mean, I remember you guys probably had the same stuff, but like my gym coach in middle school was a fucking Marine, and we were doing Marine PT as our fucking daily exercises.
As it should be. Like, listen, the U.S. is without the U.S. the world's fucked. Like, your military power better be strong, because man, you cannot back off from that. It's got to start with the young men coming up. And
So this is a good segue, because I don't want to spend our whole time talking about the law enforcement stuff as much as I'm fascinated by that and would love to hear more stories. I really want to tie it back. Like, obviously, you wanted out. So tell us, like, why did you go down the path of gym ownership?
And
like,
just before you do, let's just take a quick break.
Yeah.
And we're back. We're gonna segue from Matt, who right now is just pretty much convinced me it was a super cop.
No, not at all.
Listen, I got respect for everybody. Anyone who saved a life, dude, in my eyes, putting yourself on the line to do something like that, you're on a different level.
Yeah.
Right. So regardless, I understand what you're saying, but that's the
I just want to say real quick too, like, I hope everyone understands, like, just the daily struggle and stress that you have as a law enforcement officer in this country, that your life is literally on the line every time you put the gun and badge on. And you go out there to serve and protect. So when an officer tells you to do something, listen, give them that respect.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, I think, where people get into some trouble, is they think, they're going to be disrespectful. And there's always bad apples. Like, there's no organization that's perfect, right?
Yeah.
There's always going to be somebody that's, like, made a mistake or dealing with whatever life problems, and they handle the situation wrong.
Yeah.
But, like, give that, as a former military person, I know the ranks. So I've had a couple situations where I've had to deal with a law enforcement officer. I call them by their name and rank.
Yeah.
And I give them the respect that they deserve. And I've never had a bad dealing with an officer.
Me neither. It's all about respect, mutual respect.
Yeah.
So tell us, okay, so how do you go from, being a cop in Dallas and to owning a Metroflex in Brandon, Florida?
So the gym thing was a big deal to me back in college, because that's all I just worked at gyms, mainly the San Marcos Athletic Club, and I did work at one this is down in Fort Myers. This is before really grad school. I worked at one there. Yeah. It was just called 24-Hour Fitness. It's no longer here, but
24-Hour Fitness.
It wasn't one of those. It was, I should say, it was called Fort Myers 24-Hour Fitness.
So it wasn't the
chain.
Area.
It wasn't the chain. Okay. So it was just a small business, but started there, and then anywhere I moved, I just always wanted to work at a gym. It's just, we always want to be surrounded by that environment. And when I got into policing, and that was what I envisioned that I was going to do for the rest of my life for the most part. But then you get into it and you realize, after some time, I was like, I don't like the weather here in Dallas. Yeah. I'm not a fan of it. Working nights, and I got into evening shift, and I had some other opportunities arise to do other things within the department. But I just said, you know what, like, do I want to live here, raise a family, and be in this area and do this, for the rest of my life? I was like, no, I always had this one thing that I wanted to do, and it was always own a gym. So I started thinking, this is during the times where everything was going to hell. Yeah. Because I kept going and thinking in my head, well, I'm a nice guy. I'm from Iowa. I try and get along with everybody, treat everybody as nice as I can. And I held that within being a police officer, and it sucked that I would have people, when they found out who I was, treat me like trash. Yeah. I'm like, for what? I'm like, that's why a lot of times, even now when in the gym, it's like, I don't like to tell people that I was a cop, because I want them to get to know me, just in case they have any ideas
who you are.
Right, get to know who I am, because I'm not a dick. Yeah. And I never even was when I was a cop. I mean, I'm a guy from Iowa that, was raised in a military household, so I try to treat people with respect. And I'm not that guy. I like to get along with everyone. That's what I love about gyms is you've got all walks of life coming in the same space, and everybody, when they walk in there, they know, hey, this space is protected. It's you whoever you are, your background, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Because I remember even at the gym, so the San Marcos Athletic Club I used to work at in Texas, the owner of it, Bobby, would tell me, he'd be like, yeah, I've had gang members come in here, and I've had cops in here, and they've all been here at the same time, but they know that this is like sacred ground. Nothing happens in here. And they all respect it.
And that's worldwide. Like, I've seen that in every gym. I've been in every place. It's the one place where you strip off everything from the outside, gets stripped off. All that matters is who you are and what you can do with that 200 pound. The 200 pounds is 200 pounds to everybody.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Doesn't matter if a gang member, gay, straight, whatever. It's like everybody just has and as a business owner, I've learned that too. You want to set the tone. Yeah. And I know some gym owners that they call people out when weights get dropped. Or I'll never forget, I was at a gym that I won't name, and all of a sudden the gym owner comes out and he just, and I don't know this guy. Yeah. I have no idea who, this is like my first day doing a day pass at this place. And the gym owner comes out and he just turns on the music and says, everybody needs to rack their fucking weights. I'm fucking tired of it. And he throws a dumbbell and I'm going, wasn't me. Like, I didn't do it. And then it's just like, man, you can't have that. Then it makes me, and I'll never forget too, at that same gym when I was working at the athletic club, because every now and then I just go get a day pass to change of environment. But I never forget, 2 kids were there at the gym when I was working, and I overheard their conversation. And one of them goes, hey, don't you have a membership at so-and-so gym? And he's like, yeah, I do, but I don't want to go back there and cancel. I'm afraid. And I'm like, are you shitting me? Like, you won't go back there just because it... And when I went to this place, that was really what struck my, like, I need to go check this place out. Yeah. And sure enough, that incident happened. And also when I showed up there, so this member's wife was at the, check in, and I paid for the day pass. And I was like, oh, hey, do you mind? There's a big fridge and it's empty. I said, do you mind if I put my protein drink in the fridge? And she goes, are you buying something? I said, well, no, I brought my protein drink. Do you mind if I put it? Is it cool? And she goes, not unless you're buying something. You're not going to be able to put anything in there.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just take it with me. Like, holy shit, what was the, why? Yeah. Why would you do that when I'm a customer?
Call that stepping over dollars to pick up pennies.
Seriously.
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, I'm here to give you money and you treat me like trash.
But it's also counterproductive to the culture, right? Because what I've seen, the amount of gyms, as I show you, that I've seen, and I've worked with a lot of gym owners, is the good gym owners is the person who's like the best gyms that have been run, right? Especially even commercial gyms. If the guy running and managing the gym is a bodybuilder, powerlifter, strongman, the gym's gonna run like fucking magic. Because his mindset is the same as he trains. He wants everybody to be comfortable, everyone's go in, everybody's smiling their face, the gym culture is the same. The minute the person who walks in there is counter gym culture, in other words, he's just there to make a sale, everything falls apart. I have never seen it go the other way.
Yeah, it plays into it big time, because you have to, if you truly love what you're doing, you love that environment, you're going to protect it and you're going to do whatever you can to make it the best environment. Because and people will see me, I mean, when I'm at my gym, I train. Yeah. And there are pieces of equipment and things like that I search for, because I think in my head, well, just because it's not because I want it. No. That's the one. That's
you want to
enhance
the experience.
I want to enhance the experience, and I'm going, okay, well, if people are, I have like-minded people that come to my gym, and I think this way, and I'm like, I would love to use this piece. I'm going, I think 95% of the people in here would too. And then sometimes I'd even go around to the gym like, hey, what do you think of this? Yeah. Oh, it sounds like a cool piece. That's a cool piece. I've never seen that. And then, getting ideas and stuff from members. But, and that is, but I guess I'm going a little bit forward, but going back to kind of like getting into the gym space, transitioning, it was like, okay, I've got, at Texas State, I met the love of my life, my wife, and we have 2 beautiful children. And everything was cemented and set in Texas. Yeah. Her family was over there. I've got a stable job. I'm doing very well at it. No issues. I could eventually, I think, work my way up into positions that I wanted to. And everything's set. I've got the house. I've got my car. And I had the car that I've always wanted. I'm a big tuner guy, and I love, tuning cars, and been doing that ever since. And I had my car that I was gonna, I've been working on, and like, I've got it. Yeah. I've got the kids, the wife, everything's set. The house, perfect, picture perfect. But I said, man, I don't like this area. I'm not a fan of it. I don't know if I can continue to do this do I want to do this for 30 years? Yeah. This be it, and I'm known for this. Yeah. And Arnold always said, leave no stone unturned. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what? I've always wanted to own a gym. It's just been that side passion. I told myself, this is, I'm like 7 years into policing, and it's like everything's kind of going to shit right now. Yeah. And people are looking at me like I'm a bad guy. And I'm like, man, I'm trying to just help. Yeah. That was the original thing what I wanted to do. I felt like I was the type of person that could get into these, dark situations and then still come out through it and live it and be, not have it affect me, and then in turn also able to help people in these these bad situations. I was like, I think I'm that type of person that can do that. Yeah. And so I can handle a lot of things. And so that's why I went into it. But now I'm going, do I want to do that and have this be this is my thing for 30 years and then I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I said, no, I want to do this and open a gym. And I said, I don't want to do it too when I'm retired and I'm older.
Yeah.
I think I got to do it when I'm younger. So then that way, if it doesn't work out, I can transition into other things. I still have a game plan. Yeah, I still have a chance. So I just thought, okay, when I first moved to Texas, and I'll never forget it, was I'd always watch the Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler DVDs and things like that. And but at this point they were on YouTube. Okay, so I'll give you that.
No, I'm with you. I had the whole DVD set.
Yeah,
and we couldn't buy it in South Africa, so at that point I had to rip it off the internet. So sorry for the piracy, Ronnie, but I had to. I couldn't buy it anywhere.
Yeah, you had to do what you had to do, right? And it was one of those things. You watch those videos, and I always remember seeing Metroflex. So when I moved to Texas, I was like, what is it? Where's the Metroflex? And now they had one. The one I trained at originally was the one in Plano, and then the original Metroflex was in Arlington. So there's I think there's like 7 or 8 of them now in Texas. But I was like, okay, I got to go to the original one because that's where Ronnie trained at. And this was probably back in like 2012, 13. It's probably around like 2012, 13. I walking up to, and you see the videos and you're like, oh, intimidating. And, people feel, oh, I'm intimidated. I wasn't. I was like, oh, I want to get in there. This is going to be fun. Like, I'm excited. I'm kidding candy store. And I'm walking up and I hear, and I'm not kidding, it's like just something out of a movie. You just hear, yeah, buddy, yep. And you're just like, no way is he here. Like,
was it actually him?
He was in there, yeah.
No
he
shit.
was training.
Holy shit.
And now he's he's stopped competing for the most part at this point, but he's still training. And it's like, and I went in there in the afternoon time where it was early morning-ish, probably around 11, and transition afternoon. There aren't many people in there. Yeah. So it's like me, and here's this guy, here's Ronnie Coleman. He's just over there training. And just like, I'm lifting weights like right next to him.
He's right
here.
here.
Yeah, there's like 5 of us in the gym. Like, everybody's just doing their thing. It was just like, wow, is this surreal?
Yeah,
like, is this a real thing? And it was. And it was like, wow, okay, this is awesome. And I started thinking about the Metroflex brand as a whole because I look back at, okay, I said, if I wanted to open a gym, I could, open up something that's just call it Match Gym. And I'm saying, well, I can make it what I want, absolutely, but there's this Metroflex and this name, this brand, and it has the greatest, bodybuilder of all time associated with it. And I think back to, and I'm a big fan of Frank Zane and Arnold and those guys too. And I'm like, well, Gold's had this brand and this heritage. Yeah. Okay. And I felt like for the most part, they walked all over it and they trashed it. They threw it in the garbage because I'll never forget being at a Gold's. It was a Gold's in Lakeland. Yeah. They used to have, back when Lakeland had Gold's, they had these big, huge life-size
all the Olympias.
Is Gold's even around anymore? I don't know.
So Gold's went through bankruptcy, right? Yeah. So what happened is I think they had over like 178 locations. There's one in Clearwater. Okay. Right. There's one in California, and I think there's maybe 2 others in. So those are now privatized. They went completely upside down.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Well, they when I was training there, they had all of a sudden one day, I see a guy, on a lift, and they're taking him down, and I'm going,
I remember that.
What are you? I'm like looking at it. I'm like, what are they? Why are they taking it down? They're taking down this big picture of Steve Reeves doing this infamous pose with the clouds in the back, black and white. I'm like, that's awesome. It's motivating. Yeah. They take it down. And then literally, I kid you not, like 3 weeks later, all of a sudden I see something painted on there that says like, do your best. And I'm like, we went from you're taking down this legend to do your best. Yeah. And I'm like, you can't get any more corny or cheesy than that. I said, that is just, you're spitting on your heritage. Yeah. I'm like, why would you ever do that? Wow. And they did it. So I just said, you know what? Gold's isn't Gold's of what we used to think it was. And so I said, well, here's Metroflex, and they have, when you go to a Metroflex, you know what you're getting. Yes. And it has those people that are drawn to it. And I said, when Brian Dobson, he's not a franchise anymore, but he's licensing out the brand and the name, there's kind of this whole thing of he wants to make sure, no, you can't just open a yoga studio. Yeah. You can't it's got to be a Metroflex. Yeah. And I said, I like that. I like that he's wanting to expand and grow, and but he's not wanting to get rid of what he created and what it is.
Yeah, he wants to keep the essence.
Yes. And so I said, man, if there's going to be any type of franchise or some name that people will recognize and they know what it's about instantly, I said, I think this is it.
Yeah.
And so granted, now it's like you're literally, I describe it this way. It's like the Oregon Trail, the game you used to play on computers.
Yeah.
The family, you're going west. I said, well, I basically took my family and we went from Texas to Florida and to open the first Metroflex in all of Florida. So it's kind of like, because in Texas there's now 7 or so open. There's 4 in California. So people, you're in those states, you can there's some
you can find
brand recognition and you know what it is. But coming over here, not as many people know it. So it's like you're basically building a town, so to speak, from scratch, because there's nothing else to go with. And so it's definitely been a risk, but it's been rewarding at the same time. But one thing, I'll just to go back to the policing thing, just to kind of give a story of this cemented my decision of, okay, I think I'm doing something that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was almost like God saying, here, I think you're doing the right thing.
Everything was put in the right line for you to be able to follow up.
Yes. And it was, but this was the incident that really cemented things. Was I had like 1 week left at the department. I already put in my 2 weeks at AM doing this whole gym thing. And nobody was surprised by it, because they're like, he loves the gym. That's what he's known for. But I get a call. A call comes out on the radio. This lady had called in, and she gave an address. And she said, send help. That's it. Nothing more. And anytime you get those types of calls, it's usually not good. Yeah. Because they don't provide, when they provide no information, that's scary. Because you're like, what am I? I don't know what I'm going into. I have no notes on anything. Yeah. Well, when they dispatch me, I'm technically the backup officer. It's not my district, but I'm 3 blocks from where it came out at. So in policing, when they give an address, you park several houses down from that house, so they don't see you just pull up and all of a sudden, boom, boom, you get shot right there. So I park several houses down from the given address. Yeah. Well, guess what? The lady doesn't know her own address.
You parked in front of her house.
Parked right in front of her house.
Oof.
And there's looks to be a 18 to 20-year-old man.
Yeah.
With a crowbar, bashing out the windows of the house. The mom is like on the front porch, like trying to, and I'm like, just get away from him. I said, just get away. And granted, once again, the 2-man scenario comes into play. It's just me. Yeah. Nobody else.
Wow.
And so this 18 to 20-year-old, who I suspect is 18 to 20, he then, he sees I'm there. He goes, you motherfucker. And he starts walking off the porch. And I'm like, oh, shit. So I have to draw down him. He's got a crowbar.
Yes.
I'm not pulling out my taser.
Yeah.
No, he's within 20 feet of me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to back up. So I draw down on him. I said, don't fucking come at me. I'm going to shoot you. Don't do it. And he starts raising the crowbar. I say, shoot me, motherfucker. Shoot me. Shoot me. I'm going, oh, dude.
Come on, man.
I have 1 week left.
Yeah. And now I've got to do this shit.
And I've got it. I'm gonna smoke him. And then now it's over. So I'm on the trigger, and I'm all of a sudden, thank God, another officer was in the area close, like I was. He wasn't even dispatched to it. He was an NPO, neighborhood police officer. They don't get dispatched to calls. He was right around the corner. So he jumped in on it. He came out, and right before, as the guy is coming at me and I'm about to shoot, he pulls out his taser. Guy drops the crowbar. And it's funny because you think, you see a gun, and it's like,
but he saw a taser now.
All of a sudden he just drops the crowbar.
What?
So there's more to it too. So get him in cuffs, get him in the car, start talking to him, open up the door to like get his information, talk with mom, and just found out he's 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
He's like 6'3".
Huge.
Looks like he's 18 to 20. He's 13 years old.
Wow, imagine that went down. That's 10 times worse.
Yep. So now he's a juvenile. Nothing's going to happen with this. And as I open the door to just talk to him, gets just his basic information, spits right in my face. And I'm going, I can't punch him. I can't hit him. I can't do anything. Because you just take it. He's 13. I'm not going to hit a kid. You're not supposed to hit anybody in handcuffs, let alone so.
Yeah.
But you're just going, there's nothing to do. I just got spit in the face and almost had to smoke this kid. And and I didn't know it was a kid. At the time, I thought I was an adult because he's tall. He looks like he's 18 to 20.
Mm-hmm.
Mom didn't know the address, so I had no idea what I was going into. I wasn't supposed to be, this wasn't my call.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and that officer who was supposed to take the paper on, he's an older guy. He's just like, oh, yeah, you got this. And just takes off. And it's like, thanks, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
puts you in the middle of this shit.
Because, and I said, this is your, but he just took off. He's a guy that had been there for 30 something years.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't care if I gave him a mouthful. It's not going to take it. And no higher ups would have told him to take it either. So here it is. I'm having to take this. And I'm just going, this sucks. Like just
validated what you decided.
But the kicker was too, since I had pulled up, when they dispatched me, I had like maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds ago. I was like right there. I didn't have time. Usually when you park further down from the house, you have time to turn your camera.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have time to turn my camera because right when I pulled up the house to get out and I hit the camera, he's right there, bashing the window.
So liability would have been fucking terrible.
So I would have shot a 13-year-old kid on his front yard with no body worn camera on.
That'd have been
I'm
bad.
done.
Yeah.
Done. Dallas County, I'm done. And so that I would have had to gone through. I mean, the legals, everything would have taken. It would have been a 2-year process, manhunt, and it just would have.
So it validated every decision you had made to that point. This was like, you know what, I'm doing the right thing.
Absolutely, and this was around the time of George Floyd too.
Yeah.
And guess what? He was an African American. So that would have been another.
You would have been an example.
It would have another been a thing, and it's like, I don't want to kill a kid, any kid, for any reason.
No.
But at the time.
But realistically, someone comes at you with a crowbar. He's getting close enough. What other option do you have?
Right, exactly. You don't have an option.
You don't have another option.
I don't.
But tasing somebody that's on something isn't going to probably do anything either.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. He was, and he had it. And this is the thing too. When you come to find out, and this plays into the Dallas County thing. He had a rap sheet. As a 13, done this. He'd been in mental institutions. Mm-hmm. He's been on this type of drugs. He's been arrested for drugs. All this stuff at 13. I mean, just a rap sheet of like this. Yeah. But he's a juvenile. There's nothing you can do. Yeah. So that's why he was there. And it's like,
how does your wife and kids respond when you say, "Hey, we're going to go do this gym"? Like, are they relieved, upset that you left a good career? Like, what's their feeling and emotion behind that?
I think it was more relief, just because granted, I felt like I did a good job. When I go home, I never bring it home. Yeah. In like some of the cases and stuff like that.
But she knows where you are. Like, she knows what you do for a living. So, right. I can just speak to wives of cops that I know, and they don't bring it home either. But she knows that when you leave in the morning, there's at least a 30% ratio on average that you're not coming back.
Right. And she, and sometimes, because I took her for, she knows what I do, but I took her on a ride along one time. I did it a few times. But, I'm only taking her to calls that aren't, low risk. Mm-hmm. And we get a call for a lady that's saying she's having a mental breakdown right now, and then she's having an episode, and she doesn't know if she's suicidal or not. And I've dealt with her before. She's very calm. She's not she doesn't go manic or anything like that. She's very calm. And I'm walking in the house, and I'm telling my wife, like, no, you can come on this one. She saw the notes and read the notes, and she's like, no, I'm not going. And I said, why are you not? She's like, the notes and stuff. I mean, she's crazy, and she's talking weird things, and she's saying all these weird things. I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. I'm I'm like telling my wife, like, this is your day. This is nothing. I'm like, this is my day, but this is nothing.
This is the easy one.
I'll take this every day. I'll take this every day. Like, I'm like, this is, and she's like, no, I'm not going into the house. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
It puts perspective on that kind of lining, right? Because then you kind of realize, because for you, this is the normal daily operations, and this is the lower end of your normal daily operations. But to her, this is extreme.
Right. Yeah. Especially in like working cases in CID and detective and stuff like that. Like, that was more of a much calmer and working that kind of side of things. But like when you're on patrol, it's like it's always, suit up and
everything's heightened up.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So she was. I think she was relieved to have this happen. But then she always had this unknown of, is she going to like Florida? She's never lived out of state. Yeah. So she has no idea what she's going to like. Right? Thankfully, she loves it, and it's been a really good transition for her and for the whole family. But at the same time, I think she's now started to realize too, I'm going from one stressful job to now another stressful job.
It's just different type of stress.
Right. Because the gym, as you guys know, the gym business is one of the hardest businesses to be, partake in.
Did you know that going into it?
I had an idea, but once again, you're kind of just you're just, you go just like a puppy. You're like, I don't care. I'm gonna do my thing.
Well, the thing is, the entrepreneurial route which you've taken, you go from, as dangerous as the job is, there's a steady paycheck. Stability. There's good benefits that come with it. Retirement is good, and you walk into something where it's you. Like, if it makes it, it's your fault. If it doesn't make it, it's your fault. Mm-hmm. Right? Success or failure sits in your lap.
Well, people don't understand like this. I don't want to say sleepless nights because I sleep at night, but like just the difficulty that goes into owning your own business. Like, we all want to know like what it's like to own a business, but until you like get in the thick of it and you really start to realize like, how much goes into decisions made. So you make quick decisions, you make good decisions, you make bad decisions. We could all tell a story about, I wish I would have done that differently. I wish I wouldn't have done this. But you learn the lessons from those things. You know what not to do going forward. But like, there's so many people out there that talk about wanting to actually own a business and go out and be an entrepreneur that don't do it. Mm-hmm. And I think to be able to say like, we're all in that club that we did it. We took the chance. And I think with the gym, I think it's a great business and done right. You can really have a good life, but there's a lot that goes into that. Yeah,
and I mean, when we're talking about Metroflex, so for anybody in the Brandon, Tampa area, right? I think next year I've got 30 years of training behind me. Right, 30 years that I've been consistently in a gym. I've been in every type of gym you can think of. And, this isn't anything down on a crunch. Planet Fitness can go fuck themselves. Until they take that clunk fucking thing down on there and stop giving people pizza when they join, I have no respect for them. But, like, Crunch is a good gym, right? LA Fitness is a good gym. They have all the equipment you need. But there's a difference when you walk into a gym in regards to a feeling that you get from culture. Mm-hmm. And every time I walk into a hardcore gym, when you walk in, and by no accounts is when I say hardcore, I'm not saying that the average Joe can't get a workout. All the equipment is the top. You have the top and best equipment you can get. Mm-hmm. Metroflex, you walk in there, you want it, it's there. You're going to get a workout and you're going to get the best workout. Everything's functional, everything works. What I'm talking about is when you walk into a space, right? The first thing you realize is when you walk in and you're literally watching Ronnie Coleman or Jay Cutler or Lee Priest. You're looking on there, you get a feeling in your bloodstream that just wants you to fucking push more weight. Mm-hmm. Then you have, you walk in Metroflex, they've got this big board over there, right? And they've got all the max lifts from everybody in the gym. And it challenges you, right? You look at this and you go, okay, this place is about lifting. Then you meet Matt, right? Now, Matt's sitting out, he's very nicely dressed today, but Matt looks like a 90s bodybuilder. He's got his bodybuilding shoes on, he's sitting in there. You can see this is a old school bodybuilder, right? This is where he comes from. I can see it. He talks to you like one, he understands the concepts, and then you start seeing the people in Metroflex. How many pros do you have in Metroflex training right now?
We're up to, let's see, at least 17.
Okay, so, and how many square footage do you gym?
7,000.
Right. In a 7,000 square foot gym, right? Every time I've been there, I can't really throw a stone without hitting a pro. Now, to train in a facility at that level, now here's the other kicker. They're all the nicest people. Oh, right. Yeah. You walk in there, like everybody is smiling, they're friendly, everybody's getting their workouts in, but it's not everyone's serious, everyone gets the workouts. The feeling of walking to a Metroflex versus a Crunch, and this isn't anything down on Crunch, it's a great facility. It's not the same thing, right? A Metroflex brings that aura that Ronnie Coleman Brian put into the gym, right? You get that feeling, and okay, this is a legacy that created one of the best Miss Olympias. Guys, other than Miss Olympias, the level of pros that I've trained in there, and just the level of pros that you have, just because it is a Metroflex, changes the dynamic of how you train. And I know for me is the minute I walked in there, I'm pretty sure the minute I crossed the threshold of walking in, because I almost crashed my car just to get there. Because again, this is one of the things is the Metroflex is in a spot on the 60 on Brandon. It's not as if it stands on the road, right? So, for a lot of people there's advertising, you can find it, but if you don't know it's there, you got to really look. But once I realized it was there, I was like, no, it can't be. But this cannot be a Metroflex. It's someone's just using the same name. Then you get there, and then I see the Ronnie Coleman post, and I'm like, okay, this is actually a fucking Metroflex. And you speak to you, and you realize, okay, this guy's from Texas. This is actually a Metroflex. Then you walk in the gym, and you go, oh my god! Like the minute I crossed the threshold, my testosterone went up 200 decibels immediately. Immediately, if you want to testosterone boost, just walk into Metroflex, right? And then you start training, and then the training there is not the same. I've told this to people. We speak to people in our BNI groups and all the different people who talk to them. So listen, we train at Crunch, and the only reason I'd go do it Crunch is I'm cross-training workout. I don't need some cardio in. They've got I can push a sled around, all that. But if I want to go get a hardcore workout, I'm going to Metroflex, and that's where it's going to happen, and it's not the same. So, talk about bringing that culture in there, because you how long have you been in that space? A year and a half? 2 years?
So we're coming up on 2 years, and you kind of, hit the nail on the head with everything, and it's great, and I love having all the pros we do, and it's kind of almost like a badge of honor, because they don't have to train there.
No.
And I'm so grateful for the people that do, because they make the business. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm just, as I tell people, and I like to look at it this way, is I'm just there to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
That's it. That's my whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things too. And I think most business owners have this idea when before you ever own a business, you go, well, if I owned a business, I do this, and this. You see, some things that people do, and you're like, I do this. Well, and I'll never forget, like one of the Metroflexes back in Texas, the old owners they were great people, but there was, say the snow happened, the snowstorm came.
You got someone at the door. And she's leaving.
Gone? Is she trying to find the salon?
She might be. That's funny. So good. That's the beauty of editing.
Real quick.
I'm assuming. Yeah, that's very good. She'll come back if not. I'm good.
Okay, cool.
But just kind of going back to things, it's you've got all these people, and you're grateful for them choosing to be at your space. But I always thought, if I had a gym, this is what I would do. Well, there was an instance where the snowstorm had come through Dallas, it decimated it,
Yeah.
and they closed. They said, we're going to be we're closed today due to inclement weather. And I said, man, that is, I was looking to train that day. I'm like, my gym's going to be open. Every gym in Dallas closed down.
Yeah.
They did too. And I said, that's not the mindset. That's not the Metro. And in the original Metroflex, Brian Dobson, he kept it open.
Yeah.
I said, if anything happened in my space, like a snowstorm, hurricane, I'm going to keep it open because it's my obligation. For one, I want to, but it's my obligation to my members to do it for them.
Yes.
And we had that incident arise last year.
Yeah.
Where we had the hurricane came through, decimated, knocked out all the power. We had no power for a week, and even one of our glass windows was damaged. Now we believe it was actually through do some work in the plaza. I think I found out somebody actually broke the window intentionally, but there's still that chance that it was a storm. But who knows? Insurance purposes, it's somebody broke it.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm going with. But we had the Dollar General. They had something broken into down there, so put two and two together. Just said, that makes more sense because no other windows are broken. But we had I show up broken window. We have no power. It's like, you know what? This is a shitty experience. Everybody's going through shit right now.
Yeah.
Nobody has power in Tampa. I'm opening this thing back up. We're going to open it up, and we're just going to allow everybody to come in and lift for free today. Because everybody's mindset, everybody's all over the place. It sucks. I'm like, let's make a shitty situation a good situation.
Yeah.
And this is Metroflex. It's like, if we're really about supporting the members, the people, the community, then let's just open it up. Because and I wanted also to send a message like, this is the Metroflex mindset.
Yes.
You're not going to get this at Crunch. You're not going to get this at EOS. You're not going to get this at any of the commercial gyms. But with me and with what I stand for in the gym, you will get this. I will make sure that this place is open 365 days out of the year.
That's great.
And so we had no power, but we opened the doors up, let out the natural air in, the sunlight, and said, as long as we have light, we will keep the show going.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, for instance, this has happened twice. We had power outages, and it wasn't due to a storm or anything. We had power outages, and all the businesses around us had power. Our plaza, whatever reason. Oh, I remember one of the reasons a car hit a light pole and knocked out the power.
Yeah.
It just so happened our plaza went out. And so I'm going, okay, so we have no power. It's late at night when this happened. I said, we're going to be open, at night. I can't shut. The show goes on.
Yeah.
So I said, I just turned on my car, had the lights shining through on brights, and I asked a few other members, hey, do you mind turning on your cars? I'll sit out here and watch it. And that way we get lights, and everybody turned on their cars and shone the lights in.
Go have a workout.
And everybody was working out. And then it was almost a vibe because people were, it kind of went viral for a while because people are videoing like, hey, the power went up. We're all still training. This is Metro. And all of a sudden, people just started showing up.
Yeah.
And giving that support. But I wanted to send a message. As much as it sucked having to sit there for 10 hours until the power came back on at 3 in the morning.
The show must go on.
I was like, the show goes on. And I want to send a message to them that this is the type of place. I don't care what happens, because this place is going to be open. And it's going to be there for you.
I think any business, no matter what it is, versus like when you put your personal touch and culture into your business, people resonate with it, but it shows better than the corporate scale. Like there's a place for big corporations and companies that are out there, but I know for me personally, like what I love about Metro is the environment, the culture of that. Like I love old school iron. Like I just like the feel of that. But the guy that we brought with us recently that joined, one of the things I told him, and he's pretty new to working out, but I basically told him, there's so many people here, and if you just ask a question, they're going to help you.
They're rooting for you.
The owner, the pros that are on the wall, anybody. Like everybody here is just friendly and kind and going to help. And
you have to, and I knew this going into this, okay, there's going to be this stipulation that this place is only, and I've had it happen where people come in like, oh, this is only for pros or only for bodybuilders. They say only for bodybuilders. And I tell them, no, this gym's for everybody. And I said, bodybuilding is just, it's core, but I said, anybody that comes in here, whether you're losing weight or you're trying to put on muscle, average Joe, you're a bodybuilder.
You're a bodybuilder. Yes, 100%.
You're bodybuilding. That's what you don't have to be a pro to be a bodybuilder.
And you don't have to get on a stage to be a bodybuilder. Right. If you are trying to improve your body, you are a bodybuilder.
Yeah, you're bodybuilding. That's it in a nutshell. So there's always this kind of stipulation, this stigma with it.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, and that's what I go with. I say, look, this is for everybody. And like you said, I love having the pros in there. But if you were to open a gym and just have just pros, this is just for the pros.
Yeah.
You'd be done.
Oh, listen, we had this conversation with Robbie Donofrio, right? And ex-MMA fighter, owns Gracie Brandon down the road. And when he started his business, his mindset was, I want to train fighters. So he realized fighters don't have fucking money. Bodybuilders... Pro bodybuilders aren't rich by any account. Like Ronnie did really well. If you win a Miss Olympia, you're doing pretty well. But realistically, most bodybuilders have no money. Like if you're competing, you have no money. So, it's good having them there because I think having those guys to look up to around you, like even for us, you go in there you look around, you see people that have fucking bled to look what they look like. And I find that refreshing, and I find it's something that I can drive towards. I like having that energy around me, right? It makes the workout better. But just as the same thing is there's people, the average Joe's just like us, and they're just getting a workout, and they're bringing that energy too, because that's what Metroflex is. No one is there to mess around. This is everybody there. That's what I appreciate when you walk into Metroflex is everybody in there is literally grinding their teeth to get the best workout out, regardless of what their goal is.
Yep.
Regardless, it doesn't matter if they're in there to, you want to drop a couple of pounds, that's great. You want to pick up a couple of pounds, that's great. You're a 16-year-old kid that's, just getting into the gym scene, that's great. You're a 40-year-old veteran who's trying to just kind of get back in shape, that's great. Everybody has a place there, and everybody is super kind. But there's and again, if you've never trained in this type of gym, and if you're in the area, go check out Metroflex, because that camaraderie and that type of environment doesn't exist in big commercial gyms. It gets sucked up into that mindset, right? It's a different business vibe. Their job is to get as many members as they can. Again, you run a business, but when you have such an intimate name like Metroflex, which comes from a lineage, it brings that energy with it, and you feel it when you walk into the place.
Oh, absolutely. And it's going back with the commercial gym stuff too. Sometimes I always looked at it, I call them the evil empire, and it's just solely for the fact of, I know for the most part, we all know it, that it's almost like your cattle.
Yeah.
They want you in.
Your numbers.
They want your numbers. And it's like, I get it. Sales it always matters in any business. You have to have sales. Yeah. You can't sugarcoat that. And if you do, you're just not going to make it. Sales are always important. It's your primary objective. But at the same time, I'm not treating my members like cattle. I want them when they come in here. Absolutely. And it's like, I want them to see that. That's why I stay there Monday through Friday. Because some people think like, oh, well, why don't you hire a manager or something like that, and I said, no, I don't want that. For one, I love this. Yeah. And two, I like interacting with the people. And if I'm at the top, if I'm supposed to be, leading and steering the ship here, it's like, well, you want to see the commander, you want to see him there, and it just gives you that. Hey, you know the owner, and you can talk and interact with them, and you don't get that. It's like if you have a problem at Crunch, it's like, hey, I'd like to talk to the owner.
Who?
He stays in California somewhere. Like he's on his jet right now.
Like, it's like, good luck. It's not happening. But here you get that, and it helps, and it builds things. Like I said, I just keep the lights on. I didn't build it. The members that I have here, they're the ones that are building it, and they're making it, and they have, because we've started. I had such a certain amount of equipment that I had used in my resources and my funds, and then all of a sudden now I've been able to buy more and more equipment thanks to them. It's not because of me.
Yeah, you're constantly reinvesting back in the gym itself and the equipment that's coming.
Then you can see it, right?
Yeah.
And okay, so when Metroflex opened up its doors, you had the great Ronnie Coleman introduce himself and kind of open the doors 2 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. So my understanding is Ronnie's going to be at the gym again in May.
That's right. So this is the announcement. I haven't told anybody this yet, but the big thing is, Ronnie will be back, and we're touting it as the Return of the King.
Nice.
So it's like, Lord of the Rings, but it's like, it's Return of the King. He's coming back, because there were 400, 500 people that showed up last time he was there, and we hadn't established ourselves as anything. It was just mainly him saying, hey, I'll be there, and that many people showed up. I'll never forget, I was in the gym getting it set up, and there was this kid, and he's like 11 years old, and he's knocking on the glass. Yeah. I'm going, what does he want? So I go up and open the door and say, hey, how can I help you? What do you need? He goes, is it true? I said, what true? He said, is Ronnie Coleman going to be here? And I'm like, how did you hear about it? He said, my friend buddy told me from so-and-so, we're at the gym. I was like, yeah, he's going to be here. Oh my God. And he's 11. Yeah. And, I'm thinking, maybe just a bunch of old guys are going to show up, but Ronnie's reach is just, it's phenomenal what he's done.
It's hard not to like the guy. Like his story, like just who he is as a person. Yeah. He's just a good human being, and I've never met him. I don't know him.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough, right? Again, from South Africa. I remember meeting Ronnie in his first year when he ran the Olympia in '98. He did a trip to South Africa, right? And he did a tour, and he was training at South Africa's commercial gym called Virgin Active, and he was at the Virgin Active in Johannesburg, and he was in there, and it blew me away. The only way I can explain to someone to see Ronnie Coleman in peak condition is he looks like he's AI fucking generated. 100%. It's subhuman. He does not look human. I've seen a lot of pros. I've trained with pros. I have never seen someone. The only guy that I've ever seen come close to him in regards just sheer, oh my God, was Lee Priest. And this is a guy who's 5'4", right? Who has this he's got the same arm size as Ronnie Coleman. Right, probably smaller than Ronnie Coleman, but this is how big he is. He's the only other pro I've seen that I'm like, he doesn't look human. And I remember Ronnie walking in, and Ronnie's about 5'9", and he's as wide and as thick as he is tall. It was insane to see him walking around. And then I saw him again at the Toronto Pro Show a couple of years back, right, 2019, and then again saw him at the Olympia 2 years ago, right. And the thing with him is and this is again when his mindset of how strong and capable he is running through this with all the shit he's been through, operations, things that he's actually done to him. So the fact that he's running such a successful online business, we're not even talking about supplements, we're not talking about appearances, just the mere fact that if I post a video tomorrow, we did one for Metroflex, and you just hear those words, right, lightweight baby, it immediately engulfs a reaction, right? He's become a cultural phenomenon. Right now, he's going to be at the gym in May, but before he gets there, you've got a deadlift competition coming up, right?
We do. We have a deadlift competition up, and not to say that this is, look at it as a warm-up, but it's the, kind of the calm before the storm, because when Ronnie does show up, this is kind of in preparation, let those people get prepared, kind of get acclimated to the atmosphere, but when he shows up, we're going to do a deadlift competition with Ronnie as the head judge. So imagine if you have a bucket list of, things to do on your bucket list, you go, Ronnie Coleman judging my deadlift.
That's awesome.
And you have the opportunity now to do that because he's going to be there and he's going to be judging. So
that's great. Wow.
Yeah, you're going to hear yeah buddies and you're going to hear the whole lot so when you're trying to. So imagine you're trying to hit a PR and you got Ronnie going, yeah buddy.
Wow.
That's cool.
So
that's lifetime things right there. So we got Ronnie Coleman coming back to Metroflex. You're gonna give us the dates. We'll pop this on the website. We'll start putting this video out there. Advertising going in. What date is the first date of the warm up? Well, when's the first contest coming up?
So we have the first contest coming up next Saturday. So that'll be the 22nd. So
beautiful.
March 22nd, and it's just a $15 entry fee. We've got all the categories listed out. I mean, it's just like powerlifting rules. You get the 3 attempts. You can choose sumo or conventional, and straps and things like that are allowed. It's like
squat suit.
What's what?
No, is it completely raw, or can you wear a squat suit?
No squat suit.
No squat suit.
That's the one. I guess the one.
The only thing is weight belt. Weight belt going.
Straps. Yep. But it's just we're kind of mirroring what Ronnie used to do back in the day at the old Metroflex. When he's lifting the 800, deadlifting 800 pounds. He's doing this in prep.
Yeah.
He was in, and he.
I think it was 2 weeks out. I think that video was 2 or 3 weeks out from the Olympia.
Oh yes, he could have done 900 easily on his off season.
900. You don't understand. 3 weeks out from a contest, like his body fat's sitting in the 5-6% range before he really tapers down, probably even lower. And this guy is pulling that weight.
That is crazy.
Yeah, because some people I've heard say like, well, so and so I know bodybuilder, he now does 850, and it's like, yeah, but he's not doing it when prep like Ronnie was. And
there's the thing. Let's talk a little bit about bodybuilding, right? Let's close off with having a discussion about bodybuilding. I've watched numerous videos of Ronnie Coleman judging bodybuilding state of where it is today, and he says, and Dorian Yates has said this, Ronnie Coleman has said this, is the bodybuilders of today would not even place in the top 15 of the Olympia from 96 all the way up to 2003. What are your thoughts?
I agree, and part of it too is, and there are some few exceptions, because having had the privilege to train in a Metroflex and been around it and actually see it happen. I've seen Ronnie train. I've seen. I also had the privilege. Branch Warren. He started training at the Metroflex in Plano while I was there. Good deal of times. And also Martin. This is why I'm pulling for Martin Fitzwater big time, because he's a Metroflex man. He's training at Metroflex, and him and Keon Pearson, who won the 212, I believe twice now for the Olympia. But those guys, I've seen Branch train, and it's balls to the wall. He's insane, and he trains hard. Martin, same thing, and same with Keon. And I'll never forget, Martin and Keon were training at the Metroflex in Plano one day, and they're getting on the military shoulder press and doing barbell shoulder press. And I see them; they're stacking up. They got 4 plates in each sides. They're pressing 405. Okay, because there are some. I've seen it too. I've seen other pros where they they hardly train at all, with the weight and their time in there. And I mean, they're just, it's almost like they're afraid to, but not these guys, because they went off. They trained originally in a Metroflex and came from that, so they knew what
they're a different breed.
They're a different breed, absolutely, and I think it's carried them well, because obviously Keon's won the 212, and Martin just placed 3rd or 4th at the Olympia just last year. But they're on this military shoulder press, and there's 4 plates in each side, so they're doing 405. And I'm like, wait, is that the military shoulder press where the seat, the pin is like just this little metal pin, and it's like kind of like sometimes it jiggles and wobbles, and it's like, holy shit, they're with their weight on that, his weight on that thing, it's you're at almost 700 pounds. It's like, oh dude, I am praying that thing just does not snap and then let go coming. It never did. But they're over there, and I see Martin and Keon, they're hitting 405 for multiple reps on shoulder press, and I'm going. And then there's other guys that are like, they're doing 135, and they're like, why would you go to 225? You risk injury. And they're over here like, let's just go.
And and the thing is, like saying that is, you're not wrong in risking injury, but I think that risking, because Dorian Yates had that mentality, Ronnie Coleman definitely had that mentality, right? And if you compare Ronnie Coleman's training to, for instance, Kevin Levrone, right, or even Flex Wheeler, right, as good as they look, they never placed their intensity on pushing your muscle to such a degree at such weight levels, which Dorian Yates did. Right. He was 6 reps maximum intensity, push everything out. So was Ronnie Coleman. And I truly believe that intensity of that, like pushing everything out on those heavy weights, is what drives that last bit of extra muscle, that graininess, that impossible look. When they get on stage, you look at them. I remember Dorian Yates, 96, took those black and white photos, right? And everyone saw the photos like, holy fuck, how? Right? But if you listen to how he trains, and then you listen to Ronnie Coleman, how he trains, even Jay Cutler, and you listen to their training regime, is they push everything to the last bit. And that Branch Warren, when he placed second in the Olympia, when he beat Kai Green, and he was so close. His conditioning at that Olympia was so close to what I remember Dorian Yates being. It was fucking insane.
Well, I remember 2 stories that Brian Dobson was telling me about with him and Branch, and it just goes back to the mentality of everything. There was one night they're in the gym, and it's late at night. This is the original Metroflex, and it's just kind of them. Branch gets a call from his wife, and she's like, hey, we're in Tornado Alley, Texas, Dallas. She's like, the tornado, it is heading right for you guys at the gym. Right now, it's like 3 miles away.
Yeah.
She's like, you need to get your ass home. And so I hang up the phone, and Brian said he looked at Branch, they looked at each other, and he said, you want to keep training? He says, hell yeah. And they kept training. And that there's a tornado like right outside, and they're still training. And then the other one that and this story's been told out there too. I'm not sure about the tornado one, if it's really that known, but this one has. But Brian was telling me that this is after Branch had torn his quad. Yeah. And he goes to Brian, he's like, hey, what do I do? The Arnold's in like 7 to 8 months or so. I mean, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
And Brian said, no, I know what we need to do. And he's like, what? I can barely put any weight on it. He said, no, we're gonna put weight on it. We're gonna start weight on it now. And so now, granted, he's not putting full, they started obviously be smart about it. He was smart about it, but docs are saying you can't put more than 20 pounds of pressure on it. And they're starting on the leg press, and he's got 2 plates on each side, and they slowly built up. He went on to go to the Arnold, and I believe he either won it or placed second. Yeah, and it was because Brian Dobson went up to him and just said,
"You're trained.
No, you've already had the surgery on it. Yeah. We need to train it now."
And that was the thing with Branch Warren that always amazed me. Right, is not the most aesthetically pleasing body. Right, like he's shorter guy. He doesn't have the pleasing lines. Right, but he's fucking a tank. And when he got his conditioning on point, like he always looked good, but there was a couple of times where he just got this grainy look. It reminded me of Dorian Yates so much. He just got that grainy look in his muscle. Dude, he was subhuman. And when you look at him train, a lot of people will shit on Branch Warren on his training technique and go, he's doing cheat sets. Try doing a cheat sets with 800 pounds and we'll see how far you get. But whatever he did in training was so intense and it worked for him so well. But their level of training, like honestly, to be in a gym with them must have been insane.
It was, and Brian Dobson even says that there was, he's seen it all, and he said he had one guy come up to him one day, and they were just talking, and you get different types of people that come into that gym, and he said this one guy came in, and he was a personal trainer, and he was saying he was kind of confrontational a bit, and was saying like, your form and things like that you do, he said, it's not strict and it's not this and it's not that, and you'd be served better with your clients if they did it in a strict form. And Brian, Brian Dobson's always about like, hey man, put some weight in that, man. Put some ass in it, like just get it up.
Fuck yeah.
And so he told this guy, he looked at him and he just said, how many Mr. Olympians have you trained? How many Mr. Americas have you trained?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The guy, he's trying to find the words to say something.
There's nothing you can say.
He said, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So until you do, don't tell me.
Yeah.
How to train.
I mean, Brian, I think he won Mr. America. I think he was like 21 years old. He was insane. I mean, but just going back is, and this is again for, a guy who runs a Metroflex, who run a gym, is that's the beauty of bodybuilding, right? You can follow Mike Mentz's program, and you can do one training session every 3 days. It might work for you, right? You can follow the aspects of a Tom Platz, who couldn't train like Arnold. He couldn't train twice a day. He had to rest consistently. He had to change his training regime. Or you can do find what works for you, man. Listen, you can be great on so many different levels, and Metroflex is going to give you that ability. And the level of pros in there is between the women in there. There are fantastic athletes in that gym. The guys that are in there, you've got classic physique athletes, you've got high level pros. Just being around them, you see how they train.
I think you should mention Ashlyn and what she just achieved, one of your pros.
Oh yeah, she was. She was top 6 at the Olympia this past Olympia, and then she just at the Arnold. She placed 3rd.
Wow, look at that.
She, I mean, everybody I talk to, and I mean, we say we're biased, but in all honesty, she should have placed 1st.
Yeah,
we were all kind of shocked at that, and I've heard other people say, everybody had the same consensus. It's not just because we're biased, but she really knocked it out of the park. And
the only thing I can figure with that was that because wasn't that her first Arnold? Was that her first Arnold?
Yeah.
So to me, it was like, well, she's the up and comer, so maybe that's hers next year.
Listen, bodybuilding's got a ton of politics, and that's a whole new podcast on its own. But the reality of it is once you get to that level, right? Even the top 6 at Olympia. Right, it's easy to sit back and kind of look in. Like, I don't want to be a fucking judge. Like, who wants to be that guy to decide who's going to win the Olympia? Yeah. Because when you look at that and you're like, holy shit, you're dealing with the top 6 bodybuilders. Essentially, you got the top 15, but you're dealing with the top bodybuilders on earth.
Right.
Like, everybody in the world is training in a gym, who's doing bodybuilding, is trying to get there.
Right.
Right. Millions of people just trying to get to there. Right. And once you get there, the differences between 1st and 2nd are so minuscule. The differences between 6th and 1st, I can't tell you what they are. I'm not skilled enough.
Well, and even with, and sometimes too, I think people have this conception of, well, hey, they're the pros, and they have this stigma and this aura, and it's like, don't talk to me, peasant, I'm a pro. And it's like, no, not at all. The pros there, like you said, they help people. They want to see people succeed. They love when people come up and ask them questions, because it's what they do. It's their world.
Yeah.
They're good people.
They are good people.
And this is just an example of it. We have Alex Toplyn, who he is also an Olympian in physique. One day I'll never forget this. He was training, and he's like 2 or 3 weeks out from the Olympia. Okay, and this kid comes up to him, and the kid doesn't know who he is, and he's training for the Olympia. And he asks him, "Hey, do you mind spotting me on the hack squat?" You would think that people would be like, pros, but
whoa, bro.
Excuse me, like, I have 3 weeks left. No, not Alex, not at all. He said, "You got it, man. Let's do this."
I love that.
And I'm talking with Josh Wolf, who is our in-house doctor, physical therapist, Dr. Wolf.
Also looks fantastic.
Oh yeah, he's great. We love having him at the gym, and we're standing there looking, and we're like, oh, he does. The kid doesn't.
I don't think he realizes what just happened.
He has no idea, and you see Alex there, and not only that, it was this kid. When he goes and needs a spot, like, we're talking like you're having to pull the thing up. You're not. It's not just a little like you need to. You're having to do like the whole thing for him,
and he's doing it.
And Alex is there like, come on, one more, man, come on. And he's helping him. He's pushing him to the max. And and when you're in the Olympia and you're 3 weeks out, just even from a regular show, let alone the Olympia, you're angry, you're pissed. You're just in this zone. And Alex is there helping this kid.
I love that.
Pulling
That's a cool story.
Up. And he just, at the end, they just slapped, had 5 fives and just went on their day. And it's like, man.
That's a cool story.
That's the culture that Metroflex brings, right? My personal experience with competition is when you start on the lowest level competition. So you start at the beginning of your career, and you start in that little one where, a little small town, there's not a lot of people. Everyone's an asshole. Everyone's holding their luncheon like this. They don't want to see what they're eating. The more you progress, as I progressed through the ranks, I went through state level, I then got to nationals level, then we got to worlds level. The higher you go, the better the level of the athlete gets, and everybody becomes nice. Right, to the 99 percentile, everybody becomes nicer, more professional, better people as you go up, because they know what everyone paid. They know the pay and what happened. And in his particular case, that kid is him when he started.
Yeah. You said this in the beginning of the podcast today. Your physique is your resume, if you will. And I think what I love about Metro is, like, regardless of where people are in their journeys in life as a whole, there's a culture there of, like, we just want you to get better.
Yeah.
Like my friend that started joining us, and he's had some work commitments. He hasn't been able to join us the past couple weeks. But one of the things I said to him, the first couple workouts we had, and life got in his way. He got out of shape, etc. And I had talked to him. You had something going on. You weren't able to make it. So it was just him and I training for like on a second workout or something like that. And he was down on himself. He was going through some stuff. And he's like, I forget what he said. That it was like a negative mindset comment. And I just said, dude, do you realize that Jay and my wife both asked, first thing out of their mouth when they talked to me was, hey, how do you do?
Yeah.
And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, because we're all pulling for you.
Yeah.
That's the culture that you have there. Like everyone wants you to be successful. Like it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what shape you're in.
It's brothers in iron. It's brothers and sisters in iron. Totally. The whole concept of that is we're pulling for each other. You need a spot, we're there for you. We're here to help. We're here to, everybody wants everyone else to succeed. That's my experience with the best gyms. That's why I'm always, Metroflex is where we go. When you want to feel that, you go there. And we're gonna do a podcast in the gym. We're gonna have one in the gym in May. We'll have Ronnie there. We'll have a whole bunch of things we're gonna talk about, and we're gonna cover a lot of different subjects. But I think for anybody who wants to find a gym in the Brandon area, right, Brandon, Valrico, any other surrounds, right, go check out Metroflex. Go have a look and just spend a day there. Like go in, do a day. But the one thing I really like about it is it's 24/7. If your gyms are closed, like say, Metroflex was open when the Hurricanes were here, they've got a little scanner on the window. You go scan it, you pay for a day pass, you go and you try it out. Have a look at what difference that makes in how you train and what you do. And I think we're going to have some more discussions. I'd like to get to, bring one of your pros in, talk about the state of bodybuilding, where we are right now, kind of dive into what's happening. The Olympia is going to be, we've applied for a press pass for the Olympia, so hopefully that comes through. We'll cover the Olympia in October. See what happens there. Yes. And let's, I want to dive more into the bodybuilding culture, because there's a lot of people who, a lot of misconceptions, a lot of,
I was guilty of that.
Not really understanding that the culture is literally just, like you say, if you're improving your body, you're a bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. You can call yourself a powerlifter, you can call yourself a strongman, you can call yourself a CrossFitter. What is your purpose? You're trying to improve your body, you're a bodybuilder. Yeah, I believe that, if you want to have longevity, do bodybuilding.
Everybody has the same mission. Yeah,
it's all on the same, and we're all here to support. So I think on that note, we'll call it one a day, and then remember, deadlift competition coming up on the 22nd of March.
That's right.
Details coming up on Ronnie Coleman's visit to MetroFlex Gym in May, and we'll give more updates on the podcast and the website.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.